Stavans on his new collection, A Nation Wrestles With God. Then it's Dusty Rhodes from Sail Boston previewing the fleet of tall ships sailing into Boston Harbor and a special musical performance in Studio 3 with One Long Earring. Then we'll end with our favorite segment of the week, Am I the A-hole? Do you have to need gluten bread to buy gluten-free bread? Weigh in next on BPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Supreme Court has handed the Trump administration two major victories on immigration in a pair of closely watched cases. In one decision, the justices cleared the way to block asylum seekers from entering the United States before they can apply for protection. In another 6-3 decision, the court allowed the Trump administration to begin ending temporary protected status, or TPS, for thousands of migrants who've been living and working legally in the U.S. Beyond immigration, the Supreme Court ruled to overturn a jury verdict for a Missouri man who claimed the weed killer Roundup caused his cancer. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports the court's conservative majority says those state claims are preempted by federal pesticide law.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh delivered the 7-2 court ruling, which hands a victory to Monsanto and its new owner, Bayer. The company had been facing billions of dollars in claims over glyphosate, the key ingredient in its popular weed killer. The court majority says federal law overrides lawsuits in state courts over the company's alleged failure to warn about the product. Plaintiff lawyers say the Supreme Court's now given a shield to corporate America and slammed the courthouse doors on people sickened by pesticides. The Trump administration sided with Bayer in the case. Consumer advocates worry the ruling will shift power from states trying to protect residents when federal regulations fall short. Carrie Johnson, NPR News.
In another Supreme Court ruling, the justices struck down a gun law in Hawaii that required people to get permission from property owners before bringing firearms onto private land. The 6-3 ruling said the requirement placed an unconstitutional burden on the right to keep and bear arms. The Trump administration says it's sending assistance to Venezuela after a pair of powerful earthquakes struck the nation last night. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports the United Nations is also gearing up a response.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he's spoken with Venezuela's interim president and says the country needs a lot of help digging through the rubble. The U.S. is sharing satellite imagery and sending rescue teams from Virginia and California.
Those are the acute, short-term needs over the next 48 to 72 hours, because in search and rescue, you're trying to get to people while you can still save their lives. They're buried under rubble.
The UN's top humanitarian official, Tom Fletcher, says his office is coordinating the deployment of teams from around the world. Even before the earthquakes, he writes, nearly 8 million people in Venezuela were in need of humanitarian support. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was up 586 points. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Beginning July 21st, the town of South Hadley in Western Mass will disable all the comment sections on all town-run social media accounts, primarily Facebook. The Daily Hampshire Gazette reports the change is not due to negativity, but to funding. All government social media account activity must be archived to comply with Massachusetts public records law. Town Administrator Lisa Wong says it's costing the town about $10,000 a year to archive its social media sites, and it's terminating the account that it has with the archive service that it had hired. Advocates for rent control, angered by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court's decision to strike down a rent control ballot proposal, gathered on the steps of the State House on Beacon Hill yesterday to demand that lawmakers pass similar proposals by the end of July. Advocates held up signs, including cardboard cutouts of a Dunkin' Donuts cup that read, "Mass runs on fair rent," and a jar of marshmallow fluff that read, "Stick together against corporate landlords." On Tuesday, the SJC tossed the rent stabilization proposal from the November ballot. Many at the rally yesterday emphasized the campaign had secured more than 157,000 signatures in a bid to lock it in at the ballot. In sports, Red Sox open a 4-game series with the Yankees tonight at Fenway. AAA baseball, the Woo Sox host Toledo at Polo Park, and there are 6 World Cup matches on tap today. 77 Boston, 74 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Vanguard. With Vanguard Investor Choice, investors can have a voice in how their eligible Vanguard funds vote on key shareholder matters. Learn more at vanguard.com/investorchoice.
Hey, Eastern Brady. I am Marjorie Yegan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We are going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. Senator Elizabeth Warren is going to join us there at noontime. So if you want to see the senator in person, come on down to Copley Square. We're also going to be joined by the former ambassador to Spain and a big-time Democratic fundraiser, Ilan Salmont. Going to talk about politics with him and more. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Marjorie. So another Thursday in June, more rulings from the Supreme Court this morning at 10 o'clock. You heard these on the news. They'll return again on Monday and Thursday next week for more. A couple of pretty big ones came down today. The court sided with Trump on 2 immigration issues, one about temporary protected status, one about asylum. Nancy Gertner, former Judge Nancy Gertner, will join us in a few minutes. She'll talk about the details of that. And there was a gun case, but the biggest ones that people have been waiting on, what they're going to do about birthright citizenship, restricting, if they do, mail-in voting, which could have huge implications. We'll have to wait till next week. You know, every election cycle, I'm pretty proud of this, by the way, because we make a lot of mistakes here in terms of predictions and judgment. And Marty, you're driving me nuts.
Sorry.
With the drink stuff. I'm sorry. It's so loud. It's driving me
Is
nuts.
it loud? Can
It's
you
loud.
actually hear me?
Yeah, I can.
I thought I was doing it secretly.
And in any case,
surreptitiously.
I wouldn't say it was exactly
Under the
secret.
radar.
It's like right in my ear.
I'm mixing my electrolytes into
Okay.
my water.
Then
It's very important.
Forget what I said. Okay. In any case, every election, particularly presidential elections, we go out of our way to say, I know I speak for Marty here, the single most important issue when you decide who you're voting for president is that he or someday she decides who gets a lifetime nomination and confirmation to the Supreme Court. I hope you take that seriously. The same now goes for Senate races. Obviously, the question is going to be if the Republicans continue to have support, the majority support in the Senate, if that's what you want, the likelihood is good that the 2 most conservative justices and the oldest, Alito and Thomas, will step down to be replaced by young Alito and young Thomas-like people. If the Democrats have a majority, obviously that won't happen. For example, in Maine, supporters of Graham Plattner are quick to note they can look past some of his many personal failings in order to get Collins out of office. Obviously, she supported Kavanaugh, said she doesn't regret supporting him, even though he apparently lied to her about overturning Roe v. Wade. And is this the time where those kinds of things have to be overlooked for the greater good, or do they not? So the issue for us at the top of the show, and a bit with Judge Gertner right after us at 877-301-8970 to call or text, Supreme Court has the final say on everything. And again, they stay there forever. They are the only check on a rogue Constitution undermining president or of the United States. And we want to know if you think you give it enough attention, weight, consideration, especially in election season. 877-301-8970. This is one of the few things that we have gotten right since the first minute we've been on the radio. There is nothing that matters as much in terms of what a president does as nominations to the Supreme Court of the United States.
And you know what's odd? When you think about presidential campaigns, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't hear a lot of candidates hammering this home when they're running for office.
That's a wonderful point.
They don't talk about it. And it does. I mean, think about, the Supreme Court. I mean, obviously, the Dobbs decision was huge. I think being able to take pills to have abortions has gotten around. There's more abortions now than there were before Dobbs. But in any case.
But that's not for lack of trying on the part of the court.
And now they're they're trying to get rid of the pills in some cases, in some courtrooms as well. So, but it's really a big deal. We think of all these huge decisions in America. Even go back to the 50s, Board versus Brown of Education.
Brown versus Board, too.
To segregate this, wasn't it not Board of Education? Guys?
Brown versus Board. It was
Brown
backwards.
versus Board.
But yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, about resegregating or segregating the schools, not integrating the schools, I should say. All those big decisions. You think about decisions about wars and stuff like that.
Well, you don't have to go back. I mean, do you hear Sotomayor read from her dissent, which is very unusual today, and said this asylum case. Again, they sided with Trump on temporary protected status for Syrians and Haitians, and they did an asylum decision that was what Trump wanted. Sotomayor said people are going to die as a result of this decision. It's not in the top 2 or 3 in terms of profile, but at least according to Justice Sotomayor, people are going to die. The power they have is they gave Trump a president virtual immunity. On the other side, they ruled that his tariffs were unconstitutional. So as powerful as Trump is, and as you've heard him say recently, he believes there are no limits on his power. The ultimate final say on everything
he's the most
is
powerful
these 9 people.
person that's ever walked the earth.
Can I say one other thing about this before we get to calls and texts at 877-301-8970? As crazy as he can be sometimes, James Carville does this blog in which he went nuts. Well, he goes nuts on everything. About a month or 2 ago, I mentioned this in the air, and saying if you're a Democrat, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're a Democrat and don't support expansion of the Supreme Court, you don't deserve the support of people who believe in small d democracy. And people should know, by the way, in case you don't, we've discussed this with Judge Gertner ad nauseum, Congress can change the size of the court. It's done it either 7 or 9 times in our history. They can do it by legislation. You do not need to amend the Constitution. And if Democrats take control and there's a Democratic president in 2029, I think that's going to be a major national debate about whether or not the court should be larger than 9 members. 877-301-8970. I'm sorry.
Amber in Worcester is concerned that Donald Trump may appoint Kid Rock as the next Supreme Court justice.
877-301-8970.
You don't have to be a lawyer, right?
What? No, you don't. I'm 99% sure you don't have to be a lawyer. I don't know if there's ever been a non-lawyer, but I'm pretty sure you don't have to. I don't think it's constitutionally required. Let's start with Carl in Acton. We're talking about the importance of the Supreme Court and whether the average voter acknowledges that and votes that way. Hi, Carl. Carl.
Maybe he's not there.
He's doing his electrolytes
too.
Hi,
we can
Carl.
hear you. We
What's
can
up?
hear you. Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, you're on.
Hi there.
Hi.
My thought is that most Americans are so preoccupied with social media, they're ignorant of their history, and most of them couldn't name one justice on the Supreme Court.
I would unfortunately say I tend to agree with that. I hope we're both wrong, Carl, but I think you probably are right. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Clarence Thomas got pretty famous, but that was a while ago.
Yeah.
DA from Billerica says he's very glad he got a settlement from Monsanto before the Supreme Court struck it down. That was you've seen these ads probably for people, especially landscapers that work with Roundup all the time and believe they have gotten cancer from the Roundup. So that decision obviously is we said at the top of the hour on the news, is another pro-corporation decision.
By the way, I'm not 100% sure I'm right, but I believe I'm right when I say, we'll know in 15 minutes when Judge Gertner gets here. I think all 3 of the decisions I mentioned, the 2 immigration decisions and the gun decision out of Hawaii, were all 6-3, with the 3 liberals being on one side, the 6 conservatives being on the other side. Chris in Gloucester, hi.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I absolutely think that Dem's long-range plan should be to get the 13 Supreme Courts lines up with the 13 districts. Makes too much sense. I also think if they take the Senate, they should not approve any Supreme Court judge until the 2028 election is over and settled.
Well, I mean, for those who consider that to be not democratic, we know what Mitch McConnell did when he was running the Senate. He never allowed even a hearing on Merrick Garland, and he rushed through in breakneck speed Amy Coney Barrett. So it would just be, a tit for tat kind of thing. Chris, thanks for the call.
This is where the Republicans have really outfoxed the Democrats in long-range planning. I mean, they've had this ever since Roe v. Wade. They've had this Federal Society thing. I'm not sure when this Federal Society started, but it's basically groomed these justices to go on to the Supreme Court.
Well, it goes back further. One of Michael Kirk's great films,
Yeah.
which we've talked about on the show, Michael Kirk from Frontline, traces from Mitch McConnell when Professor Bork from Harvard Law School was borked, as they call it, was denied his confirmation of the Supreme Court. They say that young Mitch McConnell decided that day to dedicate his life with the Federalist Society to ensure that the Supreme Court was owned by conservatives, and he essentially worked his whole career.
It's a pipeline.
And that's where he ended up getting there, yeah.
And I don't think there is a similar pipeline on the Democratic side. Is there a similar pipeline? I don't know. I mean, and it's almost as if some of these people from early in their career are kind of groomed on the way up. I mean, Coney Barrett, I think, is a great example.
By the way, I'm sorry to correct you on this. It's not just the Federalist Society. The other group that a lot of these nominees come from is griftersareus.com. Do you go there? Have you checked that?
Well,
Clarence Thomas was the acting president for years.
So many things have been so disappointing in the Trump administration, but the realization, and it's been more real for me at least. I mean, I don't remember whether they were grifting back in the 80s and 90s or early 2000s, but the grift that's going on in this Supreme Court, especially with Alito and Thomas, and nobody seems to bat an eyelash.
No.
And Roberts' wife, you could say, should not.
Was a headhunter.
Yes.
And essentially headhunting people who got jobs who have cases before her husband on the Supreme Court. And by the way, that gets almost no attention because by comparison, she's a piker next to what
it's a problem
Alito and
to
Thomas
be accepting
are doing.
these $1 million vacations and you're going on these yachts and you're going to these fancy places for people who have connections to cases that you're going to decide in the Supreme Court, and that has been tragically going on.
How about not reporting them? By the way, I was
reporting them.
I was on the SCOTUS Supreme Court blog this morning, and I wasn't aware of this, but I'm just reading from the blog, and it's pretty. A lot of people post on this, and they say when the financial disclosure forms that are required from the Supreme Court are to be filed, Alito and Thomas are always late, and I assume because they're trying to figure out ways to sort of. You find that on griftersareus.com too. You can go to that website. Bob in Oklahoma, what's up?
Hey, Jim. Hey, Marjorie. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I agree that, the Supreme Court is probably the most important thing for any election for the Senate. And I really believe the Republicans have figured it out. I'm an independent, and I'll admit the gun laws, the gun rulings they've done the last couple of times, I've agreed with. At the same time, I think the Democrats have not followed or tried to look at that. Now, I do have a question about the expansion because you brought that up, Jim.
Sure, please.
Is during the Biden administration, the Nancy Gertner, Justice Gertner, was for expansion. I think you were for expansion.
Yeah.
Would you expansion today under Trump? And I don't support it either, Biden or Trump. But I'm saying, what if Trump added 2 more justices? How would that?
I think you know what my answer is going to be, Bob. The answer is no. I would not. I don't. I think this is a rogue, felonious president who, if I had the power, which luckily I guess for many I don't have, would not be able to make any more nominations to the Supreme Court. And so you're right that it is a one-sided perception because I think that his nominees added to Alito and Thomas have so created an anti-majoritarian majority on the Supreme Court of the United States that something needs to be done to restore balance. So that's an excellent question, Bob, and I tried to answer it honestly, and I hope you call us again. Thanks for your call.
And, we're talking about the Supreme Court, obviously, but when Trump was appointing judges first term and second term, one of the common denominators among many of the judges he appointed were they were unqualified. They hadn't tried cases. They hadn't presided over cases. They didn't have long trails for their qualifications, and that's pretty scary too. when you think of the lower courts being dominated by people who are just going to do the president's will.
But for whatever it's worth, there is Amy Coney Barrett is really smart.
She is.
Gorsuch is really smart. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Kavanaugh. Just that performance in the confirmation hearing was so humiliating. If he had the power to be humiliated, that I don't know if he's that childish and pathetic in real life. He's got
very angry.
Anger and the crying and the whole Matt Damon on Saturday Night Live. No one does a better imitation of anybody than he does as Kavanaugh at that hearing. But the court is so imbalanced. I mean, by the way, another thing, I'm sorry I didn't say this to the gentleman from Oklahoma, I think it was Bob a minute ago. Nancy Gertner and Larry Tribe, obviously professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, went into they were nominated to the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court, went in supporting term limits and came out supporting expansion. And the reason was term limits, they believe, needs to be done by constitutional amendment, which is a whole big deal. Expansion needs to be can be done by statute. Term limits or at least rotating kinds of positions, so that there cannot be domination for decades and decades by the way, by any point of view. There should be really smart, really competent people who have open minds, and it's pretty obvious that a decent number of the 6-member majority do not.
We have Bill from Bridgewater who wants to know, Jim, you're a big advocate of voting for judges. How about voting for Supreme Court justices?
I would. I'm. I don't want to get in a fight with you about this. I am. That we're. I think the only state in the country that does not elect judges. I think we're the only one.
I think it's a very bad idea.
I know you do, and I understand having to raise money and making. How about those Wisconsin Supreme Court? They spend millions on those. That's problematic. But having said that, if I had a choice between trusting voters or trusting people with great power and resources, I'd probably go with the voters.
Although
imperfect, but
you do think that one of the issues that really resonates with people is corruption. And you think if you were voting on Clarence Thomas or voting on Alito and you saw the corruption they were involved in, that might really hurt their chances if you were going to re-elect them to the Supreme Court.
Speaking of re-electing them, I hope I got this right. And if one of you guys can check to confirm that I'm not screwing this up, didn't Mitt Romney, when he was governor, make a proposal that every X number of years, I think it was 10 years, a judge, a state judge would be re-upped, meaning there'd be a vote, I think in the state Senate, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. That is also not a horrible idea, even though the theory is that lifetime tenure insulates people from politics. It also insulates people from justices from what the public actually wants. Marty in Brookline, you're next. Hey, Marty.
Hey, back again.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, hi. This ties back to what I called a couple of weeks ago about the Plattner issue, that people complain about his character, and nobody talks about the character of Susan Collins. And this is an issue where the Democrats have been asleep at the switch for decades, and the Republicans have been pursuing this for decades, and it's a disgrace what's happened. And I certainly agree with everything you're saying. I'm not in favor of term limits, but I do think expanding the court, which Judge Gertner, who's a mutual friend, and I hear that Jim was excellent last week at John's ceremony, which I had to miss. But anyway, I think that's the Democrats need to get back on track on this issue and recognize how important it is. The trouble is that most of the public doesn't understand these legal issues. That's been frustrating.
Well, I hear you, but Marty, you don't need to understand legal issue. All you need to understand, which you should learn in school, I hope you would agree, is the power, the final ultimate power these 9 people have over everything, over executive orders, over laws, over proposed amendments. That's all you need to understand. You don't need to understand every single case. And I fear, based upon the response we've gotten through the years, that a lot of our fellow citizens fall down on the job. Marty, thanks for the call. By the way, when Marty mentioned John is John Reinstein, who is the incredibly wonderful and every way husband of Judge Gertner, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, and there was a wonderful celebration. Margie and I were there, and we're going to talk to Judge Gertner briefly about her wonderful husband. There's a photograph of John, actually, on our YouTube stream right now.
Oh, yes.
Our number is 877...
You did do a great job, too, as kind of the MC.
Thanks. 877-301-8970. Kay in Pembroke. Hey.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
You ask, people, do they pay enough attention to the Supreme Court and to the power that the president and senators and congressmen may have over what happens in the Supreme Court? Unfortunately, I don't think people pay enough attention to the candidate itself.
Whoops. Okay, I'm so sorry. We didn't cut you off.
Today.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, she's back. Hi, Kelley.
We lost you when you said, I don't think people
sorry.
pay enough attention to the candidate themselves. Go ahead.
Right, yes. Or any of that. They don't have any idea who the candidate is, what the candidate stands for. So that's always a frustration, and trying to get people to be critical thinkers. And it's you have to be very careful when you're trying to educate others. It's a frustration. I worked for the House of Reps for 20 years.
You did? Oh.
I did. So I also worked on many, many congressional campaigns before that and after that as well.
Well, let me just say, while you and I guess we to an extent are blaming to some degree voters, average people, and Kay, thanks for your call, the burden, I think, falls on people like me and Marjorie. We have a real obligation to talk about this stuff relentlessly in ways that people can understand and in doses that are adequate enough to do the kind of education you, Kay, are talking about. So I hope we take it seriously. I hope we do it enough. And if we don't, we'll try to do better.
We're just going to talk about in the next segment as well with Nancy Gertner. She's going to talk about with the Supreme Court as well. Do we have time for one more?
We do.
877-301-8970 is the number if you want to give us a call. And a lot of our texters are pointing out that judges in many states are like in Massachusetts. Who's the person just said?
What'd you say, or look what?
They're appointed. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, a lot of them are appointed.
I was under the impression, I'm obviously wrong if they said, I thought 49 states had some elections of judges, but I could be wrong.
The reason, by the way, I think it's a bad idea is because you would end up having money influence the election of judges, and I think we've got so much money in politics now. One place where we could... What? What are you looking at?
Do you know who Sheldon Whitehouse is?
Yes, I do.
What does he do every time he comes on the show? He's a U.S. Senator from Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
He talks about how dark money has essentially gotten these Trump and other conservative justices on in the Supreme Court. It's all about money there, too.
Well, yeah, but it's not...
just dark money as opposed to public money.
I think when you're trying to be a district court in Superior Court judge in Massachusetts, district court in Massachusetts, there's not a lot of dark money in those situations.
I believe in democracy.
Okay.
In any case, Ellen in Westport. You
Jim.
only have 30 seconds. I'm sorry. Hi.
Yeah, real quick.
Hi,
quickly.
Jim and Marjorie. It's been a long time.
Okay.
But Marjorie, I called last fall about, and you, unfortunately, Jim, you weren't working.
That is sad.
Andrea Cabral was working.
Okay, you have 15 seconds.
I stated that we should restructure the Supreme Court into 15 judges to represent each state.
Ellen, I apologize. We are out of time.
She's talking about a rotating group, one per state. By the way, Marjorie, 39 states use elections. I just looked it up to some degree for judges.
I'm glad we're holding the line here in Massachusetts.
Fair enough.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, we are going to talk with retired federal judge Nancy Gertner about the Supreme Court cases, what they mean to us, why we should be concerned. We're also going to talk about her late husband, who was a great lawyer for the ACLU.
A great human, too.
Yes, John Rhinestone, who just passed away. I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, a declaration in harmony. Rhode Island-based Ensemble Altera brings its finely tuned chamber sound to GBH's state-of-the-art Fraser Performance Studio. Led by founder and director Christopher Lowry, the choir performs from its world premiere choral work, Declarations, part of our countdown to 250 programming, with music that asks what freedom, nationhood, and belonging sound like. That and more in The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And The Huntington, the Tony Award and Pulitzer Prize-winning satirical comedy Eureka Day, is playing at the Huntington through June 28th. Written by Jonathan Spector. Tickets at huntingtontheater.org. and the International Institute of New England, an advocate of refugees and immigrants in Boston since 1924, serving thousands of our newest neighbors annually. IINE.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're back at the library tomorrow. Senator Elizabeth Warren will join us there in person. She had a hell of a day yesterday, almost going to a presidential signing of her housing affordability bill until Trump pulled the whole thing. We will also speak to former ambassador to Spain, former treasurer of the Democratic National Committee, Alan Solomon, who's been visiting with a lot of challengers, the Tallaricos, the Plattners, etc. And we're on tape next week for the 4th of July. For another edition of On the Docket, we're joined on Zoom by retired federal judge Nancy Gertner. Judge Gertner is a senior lecturer at Harvard Law School and a BPR contributor. Judge, it's good to see you.
Good to be here.
Well, Nancy Gertner, a formal condolences and sympathy from me. I was lucky enough, I went with Jim last week to the service for your late husband, John Reinstein. It was a wonderful event. Tell us a little bit about his work at the ACLU and his nickname FM for his melodic voice.
Well, what he did at the ACLU, everyone sort of talks about, the ACLU enforcing rights and litigating in court. What he did at the ACLU was even a step further, which is that he and others determined that the Massachusetts Constitution, which predated the federal Constitution, in fact offered greater protection for rights than the federal Constitution. And long before this court, long before the Roberts Court, he used the state constitution and the Supreme Judicial Court's extraordinary decisions to carve out greater protections for abortion, the death penalty, Fourth Amendment issues, and really pave the way for other states to do similar kinds of things. So that was what his work was. And then the extraordinary thing was that, the usual image of a lawyer is a loudmouthed, bombastic, guy.
Yeah. Jim's a lawyer, I want to point out.
Thank you. Okay, let's hear it from the judge.
I didn't want to go there.
Too late.
But John, as Ed Ryan described, nicknamed him FM because he had an FM voice, because he had a soft-spoken, and could make his points not by being, as you would put it, an a-hole. And then we met because we litigated abortion cases together, and we litigated search and seizure cases. And at that time in the late 1970s, I had never met a man who said to me, "You do the arguing. You go before the court. You go before the cameras." Now, of course, I like to say that having invited me to do that, he never got a word in edgewise again for the next 41 years. But so it was a lovely program. It was an absolutely lovely program.
By the way, and we just had a picture of John up, which we'll put again. Let me just say before we leave this, everybody who spoke, I thought, did a beautiful job, from your kids to a bunch of lawyers, a pretty well-known actress who went to high school with John in Paris. Right before you ended the program, just perfectly, I should say, there was a guy by the name of Neil Parham who spent 51 years in jail. Just got out last October thanks to the work of John. And is Elizabeth Doherty, is that the name of the other lawyer?
Yeah, right.
And I have to say, one of the most beautiful tributes from a fellow human being in the most humble, modest of ways. And this is a guy who spent 51 years in prison. Again, just gotten out in October. And before he finishes his remarks with no notes, he turns to Judge Gertner. And again, this is a man, 51 years. And he says, Judge Gertner, if you need anything, make sure you reach out to me. It was one of the most beautiful moments John was beautiful, and you were lucky to have him, and he was lucky to have you, and the whole thing was spectacular.
He said to me that I'm not remotely retired, but he was also not really retired. And he said to me that he didn't want to give up until he didn't want to leave anyone behind.
Oh, my God.
And Neil was the last person with another, outrageous, troubling, deficient sentence that he had to finish.
We're going to talk to Neil on the air, by the way. We asked him after if he'd join us, and we'll do that at some point before the summer is over. So, Judge Gertner, we go to the SCOTUS blog this morning expecting a birthright case decision, a decision on mail-in ballots, which could have huge impact. And there were not insignificant. There was a gun case out of Hawaii, 2 cases in which, one asylum, one temporary protected status, they adopted Trump's view of the world. Before we talk about today, why do they tend to hold the most powerful, impactful decisions till the final day? Do they? And if they do, is there a reason for it? Or
well, the only thing one can assume that there's fighting going on.
Oh,
there is, struggling going on. They release the decisions that are to some degree easy, and then so that's one argument. That is a legitimate basis. You're holding the ones that are more difficult. There is an illegitimate basis. The Kelley decision, the voting rights decision, of course, came out in time to affect the 2026 elections. And you and I on this program, and I said that the issue is not only what the content was, but also the timing of it, because the Supreme Court has in past decisions decided not to issue decisions that would upend an election that was coming up. And this one upended an election that was coming up. So timing sometimes is, forgive me, political, sometimes is a product of their struggles.
Well, the mail-in ballot thing, we've talked to a lot of elected officials in Massachusetts, most recently the Attorney General, about that. If they declare that some, if not all, ballots received after Election Day, even if they're postmarked before or on Election Day, can't be counted, the impact just a few months away for secretaries of state that are already planning everything, including states out west where everybody votes by, is it Oregon and Washington or someplace?
Well, but it's also, forgive me for being a nerd. I mean, it's not just the impact on actual voting. It's also would be an extraordinary intervention by the federal government into what is in fact a state, what is clearly a state responsibility. And they would be doing it again, tilting in one direction.
What do you make of the What do you make of the What do you make of the 2 immigration decisions today, Judge?
Well, there's a weakness in the law with respect to immigration. There has been a weakness in the law with respect to immigration, which actually started in the Clinton administration, long before we had mass deportation. Bill Clinton and the Democratic Congress actually changed the law so that it was very difficult to effect judicial review of deportation decisions. I know I had to deal with this when I was on the bench. You didn't have mass deportation, so it was unfortunately individual unfairness as opposed to mass unfairness. So you start with that, and that becomes the rationale for essentially eliminating temporary protected status for Haitians and Syrians. That becomes, if you believe broadly that immigration is the territory of national security issues and not a territory of rights, that becomes, then you can go down that down that lane. The other thing that was extraordinary, I wrote about it in an Atlantic article I wrote a couple of months ago, which was, there was a thing called, you could have immediate deportation without any kind of hearing at the border. And what the Trump administration has been doing has been expanding the border to the entire country. So it makes sense that there would be a summary process at the border, sending people back, not, detaining them, but to suggest that someone who's moved into the country, has been in the place for the longest time, has developed roots, that person somehow doesn't have the same rights that the rest of us have, is extraordinary.
So we have a pretty large Haitian community here in Boston, many of whom came fleeing poverty and violence and, horrible earthquakes and all that stuff and flooding, etc. So if they're here under this temporary protective status, what does that mean for them, this judgment?
They're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to be, if they don't get another status, if they don't get another legal status, they're vulnerable to being returned.
So ICE could come find them and have them deported.
they're vulnerable. I mean, I think everything depends on individual cases, but there's no question. They wanted to argue that this was not, the plaintiffs in this case were arguing not that this was about some fancy national security issue, that this was not about some, sort of foreign policy issue. This was about race. And they tried to put forward Trump's comments about Haitians eating cats and dogs, etc. The court didn't accept that, although this litigation isn't going to stop. Someone's going to compare the treatment of Haitians and Syrians with the treatments of South Africans.
South Africans, yes, who are coming out on a red carpet, basically.
Right. And make the point that this is really not a national security issue. This is racism, pure and simple. Whether the Supreme Court would accept that is another question. But I mean, you have to make another point about the Supreme Court, which is extraordinary. There was an interview with Jesse Wegman in the New York Times and a guy named Don Ayer, who was a Rehnquist Republican, who said that what is particularly troubling about this court is that, one is that they are upending precedent, but also that it's always 6-3 and it's always the same 6.
Yeah.
During the Warren Court days, and yes, there were 5-4 decisions, there were 6-3 decisions, but the components were always different. The alignment was different. This is the same alignment over and over again, which begins to resonate not with a court, but with a political entity.
By the way, in all three of the decisions we've mentioned, either before Judge Gertner joined us or with her, the two immigration cases and the gun case out of Hawaii were 6-3, with the 6 conservatives on one side. Right. Judge Gertner, I know I've asked you this before, and I don't remember the answer, and even if I did, I'm nervous enough that I'll ask you again. If the Supreme Court has ruled in the past, as it has, on birthright citizenship, and said the 14th Amendment says what it says, you're born here, you're a citizen. If lower courts, to my knowledge, leading up to the Supreme Court taking the case, have all ruled the 14th Amendment says what it says, and it means what it says, why did they take this case if their intent is not to overturn it?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's a good question. It may have been, the originalists on the court. It doesn't take much to it doesn't take the whole court to determine what to grant cert on, right? It's not the whole court. And so it's conceivable that taking the case is driven by a small minority, and ultimately the court is going to do something different. I stand by my view that the court can't undo birthright citizenship at all. There's a split in the Republican ranks, in conservative ranks, as to whether that's possible. In other words, there's not a consistent conservative originalist position with respect to birthright citizenship. It really is a relatively aberrant position. So it doesn't take the entire court to take cases. And once they get there, that decision, I can't imagine, will overturn birthright citizenship. The other remaining cases that are the big ones are whether or not the Federal Reserve chairman can be, or not Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook can be removed, whether the president has the right to remove someone from the Federal Reserve who has a protected term that Congress established, and also the right of the president to remove other independent agency heads, like the FTC agency head. So that's out there. And the popular wisdom is that the court isn't going to mess with the Federal Reserve in particular, even whatever their rationale has been in other cases. They're not going to mess with the Federal Reserve. So I think those are the cases that are coming down. But as I said, immigration area is uniquely vulnerable. We'd never envisioned mass deportation like this, and so the protections are not as much as they should be, and that has to be changed by legislation.
Do you have a prediction on the ballot situation, what they're going to do about the mail-in ballots?
Yeah. I don't understand how it's conceivable that they could, both close to the 2026 election. I mean, in other words, two principles. One is close to the 2026 election and affecting the kinds of changes that Jim just talked about. A, and B, to enable the federal government to intervene this massively in local elections seems crazy. Crazier things have happened with this court, though. The other thing about mail-in ballots is that, by the way, mail-in ballots are something that rural Republican states want. So it's to the extent that this is, as I said a moment ago, a court that is oftentimes political, the politics are actually ambiguous here.
I actually, isn't the case that's before the court from Mississippi? I think it's Mississippi that is arguing that mail-in ballots should be counted. And again,
I'm not sure.
In any state that has it, they have to at least be postmarked by Election Day. So you are voting by Election Day, but it's only because Trump has said it's all fraud. They're all stuff in the ballot boxes. We only have 30 seconds left, and I probably shouldn't ask you this on the air, so apologies in advance. How are you? Should I not ask you?
In 20 seconds,
You can ask the question. Not great. What can I say, right? 41 years and a friendship of 50 years. Not great.
Let me tell you, though,
anyone who's lost someone knows that feeling.
The love and respect in that auditorium that was packed was just so immense from the broadest spectrum of people.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful.
It's a huge outpouring of people. We were in a movie theater. That's how crowded it was. So it was great.
Judge, we're thinking of you. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you soon. Be well.
Thank you very much, Judge Gertner. We've been speaking with retired federal judge Nancy Gertner, a senior lecturer at Harvard Law School and a BPR contributor. We thank her very, very much for her time. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk with media maven Sue O'Connell. We're going to talk to her about the rent control ballot question that kind of just went bust, and an update on the married woman caught in the Coldplay Zoom Jumbotron picture. Remember her? We're going to talk about where she is.
I remember. Who in the world doesn't remember?
In case you forgot, we're going to talk about where she's at now. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listening to BPR, GBH, NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Massachusetts is alive with the World Cup. The games, the gatherings, the colors of dozens of nations filling our streets and neighborhoods. GBH News is there, capturing the energy and the stories that make this moment unlike any other.
We are astounded. We are beyond belief that we stood up against Spain.
Get all the latest at gbhnews.org/World Cup.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Revision Energy, a renewable energy company building and servicing solar, batteries, and air source heat pumps for local homes and businesses for over 20 years. Revision Energy. Revision your power. More at revisionenergy.com. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in person tomorrow at noon to talk about the housing affordability bill that was supported by almost every Republican and Democrat that she and Ayanna Pressley helped champion. That Trump was supposed to sign yesterday, and whoops, he decided not to. I love that the Speaker of the House is holding a press conference talking about the signing
how great it is.
when it wasn't signed. Plus, former ambassador to Spain, former treasurer of the Democratic National Committee, and prolific Democratic fundraiser Ellen Solomon joins us. And we're on tape next week for the 4th of July. Joined on Zoom by news influencer, Emmy Award winner Sue O'Connell, political commentator at NBC 10 Boston, co-host of the podcast At Issue, the 2026 midterm elections, available every Monday. Good day, Sue.
Good day to both of you. Hello. Happy Thursday.
To you too.
you,
now,
guess,
for the last
too,
few
yeah.
days, we've been talking about the fact that a lot of us thought we were going to be voting on income tax reduction in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and rent control in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Well, we're not, because they got bounced off the ballot by the Massachusetts Supreme Court. And I understand you have strong opinions on the situation, Sue O'Connell.
Yeah, I mean, I've been arguing about this with you guys for years. I hate the ballot questions, and I finally come to the conclusion that the issue isn't the ballot questions, it's the process of our ballot approvals. And this has been a huge example of it. for folks to work so hard. And again, you have to take off the table what the ballot questions were about, because that's got nothing to do with it. It's about the process. So these folks worked really hard, paid a lot of money, did fundraising to get the rent control ballot question to the Supreme Judicial Court. It was approved by the Attorney General's office, and we won't get into the weeds about what they actually have to do, but it wasn't appropriate. It didn't work. So there's no fix for it. It just doesn't get on the ballot in November. It goes away. So all that money was wasted. The other question regarding the income tax, I have a secret sneaking suspicion that the Attorney General, Andrea Joy Campbell's office, used AI to check it because it's such an obvious miss that this is something that I admit all the time. And I know what she said on your show, that it's the meatloaf argument. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but it was less than 2 out of 3. And there's no
Meatloaf,
fix for
the
it,
singer,
right?
not Meatloaf, the
Wait a minute.
edible.
Meatloaf, not the food.
Okay.
Not the food.
What was Meatloaf the singer's argument?
Bad out of hell. Wasn't that Bad out of hell?
Oh, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
bad out of hell. 2
All
out
right.
of 3 ain't bad.
Forgotten that.
And again,
momentary.
There's no fix for it, right? She makes a mistake, and there's no fix for it, right? And so it's just a ridiculous situation here. What I think needs to happen, and then I'm not even going to get into the audit issue. That's a whole another can of worms. But I think what needs to happen here is we need to push state lawmakers to make a better system so that questions get vetted more appropriately. I understand the SJC doesn't want to have an avalanche of questions that may or may not collect enough signatures to get on the ballot. I understand that. But there has got to be a better system, either as a fix when a mistake is made, like the Attorney General's office has made twice, or if the organization makes a mistake, that can rectify it in some way so this is not a wasted, ridiculous purpose. I got to tell you, we're heading into the summer vacation for the lawmakers, and we now have a complete mess of direct democracy as we approach the 250th birthday, which started here, of our nation, of people asking lawmakers to do something, and for one reason or another, they're messing it up. So I think this should be a very clear warning to state lawmakers.
I'm just going to ask you a question, because you've done all these ballot questions, and people may not understand. You often have to pay a lot of money just to get the signatures. Tell people how that works.
Some of us collected signatures from real people with activists.
Okay.
It is perfectly legal to pay signature collectors. Actually, there are about 10 states.
You get stopped lots of time going into the star market by somebody.
About 10 states have laws that say you can't pay a signature collector by signature. No, we're not one of them, because it's more likely to produce fraud, like Steve Kerrigan was alleging the other day.
But it's thousands of dollars,
thousands of dollars.
So that goes to your argument.
Well, let me say 2 things about what you said. First of all, in terms of there's no way to fix it, the way to fix it is for the legislature to be a million times. I'm not only saying, fix the process, as you said, being responsive to the public. Just pick a narrow topic. When I believe it is 11 city councilors and the mayor, duly elected of Boston, say they want a local option rent control law in their city, it's not shouldn't be the business of the legislature to say, I'm a rep from Fitchburg and I know better than you do, Mayor Wu. It may be a horrible idea, but you want it, you got it. Good luck. And if the voters don't like it, they should vote for somebody else. That's one. And 2, without totally losing the audience, well, I've yet to read the decision on rent control. I totally disagree with their reasoning, at least as I've read it so this is sort of a defense of the AG. Until I read the decision, I should shut up. But this technicality in which they rule, and it was unanimous, so they probably know more than I do, I have a problem with. But we should at some point, Sue, do a thing with us and some experts, like a whole segment on what reforms would be appropriate and achievable around the ballot process.
Yeah, because here it is almost July, and the election's in the fall, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's just wasted time. You know what should really happen? We should abolish the state Senate and go to a single chamber Beacon Hill.
Really?
And that's what I think. I've been working on an essay on this for months, since November. I think
Why?
We have Because it gets all locked up. Nothing is happening.
yeah.
It doesn't move. Lots of states only have one house. Why do we have two? It's just ridiculous.
I didn't want to get into this, but since you did the solution, because I was a lobbyist, and I use the term loosely decades ago on Beacon Hill, rank and file members have to have the courage to stand up to their leaders. When I was there was heavy debate with leaders far more powerful than these two, Bill Bolger, Finneran, Flaherty. These members, with very few exceptions, are so scared of the Speaker and the Senate President, you don't hear a peep. And if you're not willing to talk, you should go find another job. That's the solution, and you can't legislate. Now, Marjorie said the only thing as important to her, because she knows how important the ballot question, getting deep sixth were to you, the only thing of equal importance to her was today's Globe story on the Coldplay woman. So we're going to move to that. Marjorie, would you like to introduce it to the listeners, please?
Well, yeah, people.
Dana Gerber wrote the piece.
People may remember this couple, Kristen Cabot and her boss at the time. This guy, what was his name, Byron or something like Andy Byron.
Yep.
They were caught at a Coldplay concert. The jumbotron caught. They were put in
Andy
the jumbotron.
Byron,
Andy Byron, yeah, Andy Byron caught in the jumbotron. They were canoodling in the stands.
You want to hear Chris Martin? Chris
Sure.
Martin hears them. He's the leader of Coldplay. He sees them on the jumbotron canoodling, as Marjorie said. Here's what Chris Martin had to say.
Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Well, we know they were canoodling, and
they may be shy too.
And we found out later, was separated from her husband at the time. He was married, and I think he is still married. But what's interesting to me is, nobody wants to see somebody cheating in the stands, and it's very bad for your family, your children, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But she talked about getting death threats. She talked about how she's been unemployed for 2 years. Paparazzi were outside her house for weeks and weeks and weeks. People stopped her in public like she was in the Scarlet Letter and pointed a finger at her. And meanwhile, we could find nothing about Andy Byron's travails. And it's to me, it's another one of those double standard stories where she's claiming she was separated from her husband. She's getting divorced. She's paying this horrible price, and somehow, and you know who she's working with? The same PR firm that Monica Lewinsky works with.
She says Lewinsky's been very nice to her.
Yeah, well,
What's your
Lewinsky
take
knows
on this?
the same story. Who took the flack there? It was the young woman, Monica Lewinsky, not Bill Clinton. But anyway, what do you think?
Sue's
oh my
frozen.
God, Sue is frozen.
Probably at the most important point we've ever had with Sue in decades.
She's staring at
Can
me.
you guys try to
not
get her on
opening
the
her
phone
mouth.
or whatever you
I
have to
thought she
do?
was shocked by my question. But there's the bottom line in this situation. It's that the woman seems to pay, even in 2026, the woman pays a much worse price for this kind of thing than the guy.
While we're waiting for Sue to...
Oh,
Sue
there
is
she
back.
is. Sue is
Okay,
back.
Hi, Sue.
Yeah.
Did you just write an essay on this or what?
I've been working on that too. I mean, to Marjorie's point, of course, it's the sexism, right? I mean, we don't need to have a lot of information to figure out why people are attacking her. I mean, no one should attack either one of them. It was a terrible thing. It's a pop culture moment. It is what it is. But on the other hand, they're both equal in this, and she's the one that's getting the brunt of the death threats. And I don't think people understand how many threats we all get as soon as you get into the public eye on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
Not just the stuff that people are saying on Twitter or X, like people calling me, people sending emails. And I'm not looking for sympathy here. I'm just saying the public domain is really a terrible place to be on a regular basis. So when you're just a regular person who makes a very big mistake and you happen to be a woman, it's going to come down on you more than it's going to come down on him. And, I appreciate both. I kind of laughed at the opening of the article where she wants to stay anonymous, but here I am telling you.
Well, I'm so glad you said that. My question to both of you, and I don't mean this in any way critical, it's her decision to do this. She had a big spread in the New York Times about 4 or 5 months ago. She has a piece in the Globe. Why would you do this if your goal is to fade into relative?
To get the narrative, make sure that you're telling your side of the story the way that it needs to be.
Or
so
it could be
that. And she's saying she wants to help other people who may go through similar. I mean, in the early days of the internet, and social media. There was a woman on a plane who was actually going to South Africa to do HIV/AIDS work, and she made some jokes about dying from AIDS while she was on the plane. She thought it was a small group on X or Twitter. She landed, and it had blown up, and she lost her job. There was someone at a veterans war memorial who gave the finger to a friend. Someone took a picture and posted it, and she lost her job. So I think what she's trying to do is send a message about both being kind to people who make mistakes that are very public, and also just what will happen to you if you do make a mistake in public.
Can I say one more thing about this?
One last theory. She might be doing it for money to get a gig because she's unemployed.
Well, maybe. And I'm fine with that. I'm not being critical at all. It's her decision. You know, you mentioned the death threat thing, and I can't, quantify this, but we've all gotten them. And again, it's not to get sympathy. I have to say, and this is important, the number of them has increased dramatically since 2016. Figure that out yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And number two, when a member of Congress went against the president in the past, the worst that ever happened to him or her is they were criticized. Sometimes they lost their job. Listen to the voicemail at the offices of some of these Congress people who have opposed Donald Trump, where people say, I know where your children go to school. I know where your pretty wife or pretty husband lives. The death threat is the language of debate in a time where violence is permissible when it comes to leaders of our country.
Well, how about the guy up in Maine, Golden, the guy that said he quit because he wanted to put up with the threat against his family? He'd had enough.
Well, that's there's a lot of people. I mean, he intimated this, that one of the reasons Mitt Romney didn't run for re-election was because of threats his family got too.
And it's hard to tell the whack jobs, just the regular whack jobs, from the real threats.
That's so right.
That's also the part, because people just ignore it. It's like, well, what if I ignore the wrong one?
That's true. No, that's right. It's a real problem. But anyway, let's get to this alpha gal down in Martha's Vineyard. They were this writer in the Globe, Cecilia Colby, wrote a great piece about this, talking about how Selena, okay, that how they're walking a fine line down there with the alpha gal, because it's kind of like back in Jaws, when the town selectmen didn't want everybody to know there was a shark there because it was going to cut down in tourism, and they're debating about how much they want to be out of the closet about this tick, this Lone Star tick, what is it, the Texas Lone Star, whatever it is, that's giving people alpha gal where they can't eat cheeseburgers and dairy and stuff like that, and they get really sick. So what do you think?
Well, I know that the tick experts that I've talked to and people have talked to say the basic thing about this tick issue is that even though climate change is making it worse, and there probably are more ticks than there have in the past, the same practices will keep you safe that always have, right? And that's wearing a tick repellent, tucking your pants into your shoes, not going out into it's also not a good look to have long-term Lyme disease.
That's true.
We put on sunscreen, we wear hats, we hydrate. So it is a delicate balance, because you don't want to keep the tourists away. That doesn't help anyone. But at the same time, this is nature. We are in nature, and you need to take the proper precautions to make sure you protect yourself from ticks. My kid has a rare tick illness. We have from a tick that isn't even in this region. We have no idea where she got it from. And it's the illness that comes either from the allergy or the reaction or the bacteria is really, really life altering. So just, don't go in the woods. I'm all about sitting on the couch. I really think outside is ridiculously overrated. I don't know why people are outside.
One of the most legendary stories we talked about 20 years ago on our old radio station is the woman who sat on her couch so long that her skin and the couch became one. Did you know that?
The weave.
That was very sad.
That's going to be me.
She's still...
I'm working on it now.
Oh,
yeah, that was about. I think they don't go on the beach though. The ticks supposedly don't go on the beach, so you have.
No, but you got to walk through the grass to get.
You have to walk through the grass, right? That. So you put your socks on, your shoes on.
Observation.
Yeah. Okay.
Put on one of those hazmat suits. You can get them at Home Depot. They're light. They're not very hot. Just walk around with those.
They probably keep you from getting sunburned as well.
Jim and Marjorie hazmat suits. Next pledge, $120, $10 a month.
I hear some merch is
See you later. Bye. Sue O'Connell.
We've been speaking with Emmy Award winner Sue O'Connell, political commentator and NBC 10 Boston co-host of the podcast At Issue, the 2026 midterm elections, available every single Monday. Thanks to Sue. And thanks to those of you listening on any PM. The Fabulous 413 starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to keep going here in Boston. Coming up after this quick break, Amherst Ilan Stavans on his new anthology, A Nation Wrestles With God, a collection of American spiritual and religious writings, including Ilan's own about finding God when he was high. I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browdy. We'll be right back.
Coming up, you'll hear something on GBH News that just wouldn't be possible without listener support. So, while you're listening, consider pitching in $10 or $20 a month as a GBH sustainer and help make it all happen. Give at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Cambridge Trust, a division of Eastern Bank, dedicated to helping individuals and businesses pursue their financial goals with a full range of banking and wealth management services. Learn more at cambridgetrust.com. And Mass General Brigham. In heart surgery, expertise matters. Mass General Brigham Heart and Vascular Institute performs thousands of surgeries each year and is committed to research and innovation. massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are at the library tomorrow. Senator Elizabeth Warren is going to join us right at noontime in person. If you want to see her in person, you can come on down there to see her. They're also going to be joined by former Ambassador to Spain, Ilan Salomon, who is a prolific Democratic fundraiser. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. Joined now on Zoom by Ilan Stavans, Professor of Humanities and Latin American and Latino Culture at Amherst College. This guy doesn't understand small projects.
No.
This is a couple of months ago, his book, I think it was called Conversations on Dictionaries. You remember that he says that some rich guy offered him a lot of money to do a book with every word that has ever been uttered in every language. And now his forthcoming anthology, which is really, you can't put this damn thing down. A Nation Wrestles With God, and this is from an agnostic, me, is this vast collection of spiritual and religious writing from people like Lincoln to a pope, Frederick Douglass to Woody Allen, Lana Del Rey to poets and cartoonists, over 400 years of history. It is brilliant. It's out next week. Oh, I didn't even say what the title was. I did. A Nation Wrestles With God, American Prophets, Philosophers, and Firebrands, edited and as a piece by Ilan Stavans. Congratulations, Ilan. Welcome back. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we're going to get to your great piece about getting high and discovering God in just a second. But elaborate on what Jim said. Why did you do this, and how did you choose all these people? I mean, how many people have you gotten here? About 60 or 70?
I think it's closer to 100.
100. Okay, that's a lot of people talking about with their poetry or their divine inspiration and stuff. So how'd you do this, and why?
I am and have been, as an immigrant, always fascinated by the way religion serves as an organizer of American life, and by the tensions that exist between the different conceptions of God, between immigrants and between those that came as settlers and the indigenous population. And I, just as a token of appreciation to this country that has been, in spite of everything, very generous to me, I wanted to, in its 250th anniversary, send a statement back. This is how I have seen the debate about religion and about God. And let's join in the conversation. For some of us, God can be a destructive entity. For others, it's a pacifying, inspiring entity. I think that God can take those many different approaches.
You know, one of the things I was worried about when I was looking at the index is, or the table of, what's the table of contents? Yeah, table of contents. It's when you're listing all the authors and
close to 100
titles.
as you said.
I was worried about two things. I was worried about the people who I didn't know enough about. And I have to say, you brilliantly, in a paragraph, told the reader, I think, everything you needed to know, at least for that moment, before you read what he or she or they wrote or spoke or whatever. Secondly, how did you decide? This had to be torturous. Some of your thing are excerpts from speeches where you just took a piece. Some are from long writings where you take, I don't know, 500 words instead of, let's say, 5,000 words. How torturous was that? I'm serious. That's a pretty major responsibility, Ilan Stavans.
Yeah. I think it's torture personified. I love this concept of anthologies as portable libraries. You only have a certain amount of real estate here, and you have to be able to show to the reader why a certain voice matters and how that voice relates to those that came before and that came after. And the hope that you make is that, or the bet that you make is that the anthology with everything you threw in is better than the anthology with everything that was left out, that is, the world itself. It always depends on the eye of the beholder, what the reader thinks or doesn't think. And hopefully this will be an entrance to readers getting more engaged with some of these authors, or to say, I wish this other one was also here, because it's part of the conversation.
You know, we asked, I hope this is okay, and if you decided against it, it's fine. You have an excerpt from a speech of, and I'm going to mispronounce it, Tenskwatawa. Is that close? From
Tenskwatawa, yes.
Oh, good. At 1807. And we asked you if you'd read just one paragraph from the speech. Are you okay with that or no?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Give us a little background on who that person was, and then if you'd read it, it'd be great.
In the anthology, Nation Wrestles With God, for obvious and logical reasons, there is a presence of Native Americans, indigenous voices, and this is one of them. This is a major figure at the end of the 18th century and beginning of the 19th century, who represented the Shawnee, and he, after being in a coma, came back convinced that he was a personification of God. Together with his brother, Tecumseh, he led a rebellion in order to allow the indigenous people to regain their voice. And this, as you said, Jim, is from a speech that he delivered in 1807. And a paragraph somewhere in the middle of the speech goes like this: my children, you are to have very little intercourse with the whites. They are not your father, as you call them, but your brethren. I am your father. When you call me so, you do well. I am the father of the English, of the French, of the Spaniards, of the Indians. I created the first man who was the common father of all these people as well as yourselves. And it is through him whom I have awakened from his long sleep that I now address you. But the Americans, I did not make them. They are not my children, but the children of the evil spirit. They grew from the scum of the great water when it was troubled by the evil spirit, and the fourth that was driven into the woods by a strong east wind. They are numerous, but I hate them. They are unjust. They have taken away your lands, which are not made for them. And this, I think, is a clear example of how often the connection with God can push politics in this country in one direction or the other.
Oh, I would say so. You see that all over the place in the United States of America. But, I wanted to ask you about your piece, because long ago I remember reading William James' Varieties of Religious Experience. He talked in there about how a lot of people that became big-time religious people or mystics got there through taking drugs. And you heard this anecdotally, when people were into psychedelics, they would have this all as one experience. But I thought when William James wrote about it, he was pretty authoritative. So you apparently had a divine discovery when you were high. So tell us about that.
I grew up, Marjorie, in a Jewish a household when I was a little child. Attending synagogues was the synagogue was a regular occasion, maybe at the end of every week, or at least for the high holidays. I always felt that the institution of the synagogue had given me the rituals, but had not given me the spiritual aspect of God. And somewhere in my 50s, I thought, if I don't take some step to look at spirituality from a different perspective, it's going to be too late, and I will never have had that opportunity. So during a trip to Colombia, to the Amazon, I participated in a shamanic ceremony with ayahuasca, all indigenous people in it. I was scared to death. I did not know where this would take me. And it took me to places that I cannot articulate in words, that are way beyond silence, and that allowed me to see the world through an absolutely different perspective. It radically changed me as a teacher and as a writer and as a human being. And I don't know if I met God, but I entered an oven, like the ovens where some of my ancestors perished during the concentration camps and in the Second World War. And in that oven, I met two rabbis from the Talmud who were discussing intensely the right way to perceive God, almost screaming to one another. Nothing more Jewish in my perspective, but you need to do it through ayahuasca.
Yeah. So has it stayed with you, that experience? And you said
Absolutely
it changed.
stayed with me.
So that is
Yes.
fascinating.
And it was, I think that it made me see even my Judaism from a different viewpoint.
You know, I hope this is not trivial considering what you and Marjorie are just discussing. I also love the feel of this book.
Oh.
And how much did that, how big a deal was it? It's Restless.
It's Restless,
right,
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
How much does that consume you when you're putting out a tome
Jim,
like
it consumes me enormously. A book you need to touch it and feel good about it. You
great.
even need to have the need to smell it, maybe, to see the words right in front of you, and the pages need to have a certain texture.
What is it called when the ends of the pages are rough like these?
I don't know. I asked my editor, but I wanted
that.
exactly this.
Exactly.
Side on the opposite of the spine.
Fabulous.
Well, we should mention some of the other people in here. You got Bruce Springsteen, his Brilliant Disguise, which I think was the story about his marriage breaking up there. The lyrics to that, which was poetic. Anne Lamott, who's written a million spiritual books. Stephen Colbert, who used to be on TV. Some of the great poets. You got Emily Dickinson, Edna St. Vincent Millay, T.S. Eliot.
Malcolm X,
Malcolm X, Martin Luther
Jr.
King. Yeah, you're going back to just Thomas Jefferson, Nathaniel Hawthorne. I mean, you have got a huge range here. How long did it take you to do this?
Oh, I would say, Marjorie, that my entire life, 65 years, with all I guess I was born already with a little sign on my forehead saying you have to do this when you turn 65. I don't know. In real life, maybe about 4 years, the convincing myself that this was a project, connecting it to the 250th anniversary, it really feeling that a time like this, when the country is in such bad state, it is also an opportunity to go inwards. A time of crisis is a time of opportunity. And if anything, I hope that this immigrant's voice at a time when immigrants are vilified can show a counterside of what is happening in the country.
Okay, speaking of immigrants, is this the time to talk about the Mexican team?
Well, he mentioned growing up in Mexico and going to synagogue.
In the
raising his arms.
They're undefeated. The Mexican team.
3-0. The Mexican team in the World Cup is the greatest revelation. Maybe God himself is rooting for the Mexican. Although the United States plays today. Marjorie, I have to tell you, again, at a time of incredible doom, the joy that people are experiencing with the World Cup, the dances, the songs, the way they dress, the way they connect among different teams. Oh my God, it's just fascinating.
You know, I know we weren't supposed to mention this because you wanted to talk about this book. We're aware that your next book is a minute-by-minute account of every World Cup match ever played. So when do you think that'll be
As my students say, Professor Stavans comes up with an idea on Tuesday, writes it on Wednesday, and publishes it.
Yeah.
And on Thursday, it's assigned for class.
And I also like that you have Christopher Hitchens in here because he was a big time atheist and he's dying of cancer and he never changed his mind. And I remember hearing him speak one time, and you got him in there doing his famous "From God Is Not Great." So you were ecumenical in your approach.
Ecumenical because I think, Marjorie, that those that don't believe in God, those that are opposed to God, are as much in the conversation about God as you can't. It's the elephant in the room. You can't really fully ignore it. And the truth is that many of us, even within the same day, go from being strong believers to strong skeptics, depending on what is happening to us at a particular time. And Hitchens, I think, shows an extreme approach of being an atheist. And I allowed myself a little excessive line at the end of the headnote. After I talk about his book being called God Is Not Great, a reader responded to him saying, "And you're not great either, Mr. Hitchens." Maybe that was God himself speaking through a reader.
I love it.
It's terrific. And I'm not the kind of person who would think that they'd get great joy and be educated by something like this.
Donald Trump's in here too.
I couldn't put it down. No.
Donald Trump, a man that we can all, he says the rosary every day. That's what I understand.
Upside down though. Ilan, congratulations yet again.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you for
this is going to be great.
Next week it's out. Next week it's out. Great.
I'm on vacation and I'm taking this book and I'm going to enjoy it from beginning to end. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon, Ilan. Thank you.
We've been speaking with Ilan Stavans, Professor of Humanities and Latin American and Latino Culture at Amherst College. His forthcoming anthology, A Nation Wrestles With God. It is an incredible book with all across the spectrum of thinkers.
Well, you know what the other plus is? I haven't read anything by, I'd say, 2/3 of these
that's
people.
Right.
And they're little consumable excerpts that Ilan picked.
That's right. And cartoons.
Which exposed me to writers, cartoonists, poets whom I had never experienced before, which is also great.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk to Dusty Rhodes. She's going to preview this summer's Sail Boston events. What to see, where to see it. A big smashing event about to happen in Boston. We'll get all the details up next. You are listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. We'll be right back.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, we confront what one guest calls an election fraud doom loop. When we get so accustomed to conspiracy theories about voting systems, then we're more likely to accept the next one that festers, particularly if it aligns with our worldview. But what happens when both parties lose faith? Easy. You keep fighting for the truth. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Native Plant Trust. More than 125 years of commitment to protecting New England's native plants. More information about how natives can support the web of life at nativeplanttrust.org. And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping New England families stay active this summer by offering a range of racket sports products and services, with locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, back at the library tomorrow. Senator Elizabeth Warren will join us in person at noon to talk about what she went through yesterday in this housing affordability bill. And Alan Solomon, former ambassador of Spain, is going to join us too about current politics. This summer, roughly 60 ships from across the globe will convene here in Boston Harbor as part of the Sail 250 event. Joined now by Sail Boston Executive Director Dusty Rhodes, who has for years brought this great event to the city. Go to sailboston.com. Dusty, it's great to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, this is such
You look a lot calmer than I'd be. That's all I should say. But go ahead.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful, fantastic event. Very uplifting. We all need a little uplift. But for people who don't know about Sail Boston, tell people what they're going to see.
It's a spectacular sight. We have a wonderful harbor. We've got 60 ships coming. They're parading here on July 11th, Saturday, and then they'll be here for almost a whole week. Free, open to the public, want everybody to come. It's a sort of of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah, with their big, huge sails. I mean, describe these ships. These are just not any old ships.
No, these are absolutely spectacular. And
Yeah.
to get them all to come at one time to one port has taken us years and years of negotiation. But it's a very proud cultural opportunity. We've got over 20 cultures that will be coming. And the fact that people are welcome to come aboard and talk to the Argentinian captain and the Colombian crew members. It's just a very fulfilling event.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's an app for iPhone users, right? And
Yes.
for Androids like me, you go to sailboston.com. You get all the logistics. Can I say, I just said to Ilan, this is my kind of book and I love it. I have no interest in this 10 years ago or whatever it was. And Roger Berkowitz, who then owned Legal Seafood, he was just opening Harborside. And he invites a bunch of people down to go to the third floor to watch this.
La-di-da.
I cannot tell a lot. Well, he's a friend. He's a friend of yours,
Yeah,
too.
some of us were always stuck in a crowd in Castle Island.
Truth be told, the only reason I went is because of free food. I mean, and I couldn't even speak.
Beautiful.
It was the most beautiful parade of these ships. It is just it's almost like they're not real kind of thing. When was the first time you saw one of these things yourself?
Oh, back in 1988.
And what was that like for you?
It was spellbound, and they are so beautiful and wonderful, and most importantly, hospitable. The crew and the captains and the exos are so thrilled to be in. And first of all, Port of Boston has proven to be one of the best, if not the best, in the world.
Why?
And that is because, first of all, the port is downtown. So you come off the ship, you go into a restaurant, somebody buys you a beer because you're in a uniform, or they open their doors for you to stay for a couple of days in their hotel. And the city opens its doors to these cadets, crew, and captains. And we have that reputation, and that's why these ships come back.
And by the way, to get on a ship, do you make arrangements online with you just go?
No,
you just
go? Walk on.
Go.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
And
that
you
is fabulous.
it was incredible. Walk all around the bow and sterns of these boats, and you see the huge sails, and you see the sails.
And
It's very
imagine
exciting.
if you're Brazilian, or you're Colombian, or you're Argentinian, or you're Italian. You want to go see the Italian ship.
Yeah, that's supposed to be spectacular.
And so you sort of, and once you get on it, you get the vibe of that company or that culture. And then at nighttime, particularly with the Latin ships, they all have their own bands. So they just play right into the
Is there a
midnight.
Russian ship this year?
Not this year.
Well, that's good, because Marty and I slept on the Russian ship with listeners.
Yeah,
so we,
it's not
honest
a
to
good-
God,
not a good experience.
with about maybe 15 years ago, I don't know which year it was, we slept on the ship. There were semi-naked young boy sailors from Russia.
They looked emaciated.
And I got my head stuck on a fly strip. But they're not here, so we don't have to worry about
There was
them.
a
Is
lot
that
of
correct?
But
lot of
what's
vodka.
fascinating about that, and why we're such a famous port, is they had just broken up for the Soviet Union at that time,
Yeah.
and Stop and Shop arrived at the gangway of the ship with a ton of food, and just kept bringing more and more food up the brow.
That's pretty great.
And that's why we are embraced internationally as being so welcome. Same thing happened with the Polish ship. Is Gillette found out they didn't have a certain kind of sonar equipment. Gillette donated it and had it installed on the ship while she was here.
So Dusty Rhodes, how long does it take you to organize things? This is a massive.
It takes many years.
Many years,
and
I bet.
It's because you have to negotiate with the countries to convince them to all
Yeah.
come at the same time.
Okay.
So it's all diplomacy.
So you think in Boston, the North End, South Boston, East Boston would be the best places to go, I
And
would
Charlestown.
think. And Charleston, that's right. But you're advising people to take public transportation because of the crowds.
On the Parade of Sail Day, which is July 11th,
Yeah.
because of the crowds and the road closures. After that, Saturday afternoon right to Wednesday night, roads are open. Take the tea if you wish. Come downtown, walk, but go to many ships. Don't just plan on going one afternoon for an hour. No, you want to get immersed and enjoy all the different.
And
cultures.
I just said we've left out a critical ingredient here. The parade of ships
Is the 11th.
Is the 11th. Did we say that already? I'm sorry.
9 to 4.
And then they're still here for 4 days after.
5
the 11th.
days
5
thereafter.
days.
Yeah.
5 days thereafter, and that's when you can visit.
And where are
do
they going to
whatever.
be?
They're going to be South Boston, Seaport, Charlestown,
Okay.
North End. And again, they're here for many, many days. We have a festival right on Northern Avenue, Sale Boston Festival, where, you know, a lot of merchandise and food and beverage and beer gardens and music. So you want to go to the festival, you want to ride the Ferris wheel to see the ships with their up and overs, which are their lights that make the nighttime spectacular. Fireworks on Saturday night and Wednesday night,
and free. And some of these ships, I mean, they're not as old as the USS Constitution, which I think is the oldest floating ship going. But some of these are old. They're like incredibly beautiful with the wood and these massive sails,
teak leaf on the Italian ship. Amerigo Vespucci. You got to see she.
I've heard that's
she's a
spectacular. That's what I hear.
Yes.
Amerigo Vespucci, the explorer.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. So Sail Boston is where everybody goes to, sailboston.com, to get all the information about where to go and when to go see it. But that's an important point. You can just walk on these boats for free.
Absolutely.
How great is
you
that?
want to.
Yeah. I mean,
and bring your children.
Yes. Nothing is free anymore. How'd you manage this?
Yeah, who's paying for this? That's a great question.
It's a wonderful combination of the city, the state, and Meet Boston's our main sponsor. And of course, we want to thank a lot of our sponsors who've stepped up, because these are expensive. And again, if you're going to do something for free for millions of people, we're working with 68 different public safety agencies.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine the logistics between the air, the land, and the sea? The logistics are mind-boggling.
You know, this may not be fair, and you're probably not going to want to address this anyway, so why am I asking?
Go ahead, Jim.
The lead-up to the World Cup seemed to be utter and total chaos. We couldn't get the guy who was head of it to even respond to our emails, much less... This has been... Oh, you don't want to answer this question. This has been... really
Dusty's very organized. She's got it all going over there.
Why is that?
We work from the ground up. We work with the police guy on the street, the transportation dude, the DPW person. We work for years in with the people who know their sector, show them respect, and then they work with you. That expression of all boats rise with a rising tide. Those agencies work with you in making the communication and the logistics work.
So we're almost out of time, but on the Sail Boston Day, June 11th, when they're 9 to 4, they're going to be coming in.
July 11th.
July 11th, I'm sorry. So you just stand wherever you're going to be, and you can see ship after ship after ship coming into these different harbors.
We want everyone to come down to Boston Harbor.
And by the way, you can see, if you want to get excited in advance, as these two are talking, I'm going to the Sail Boston website and looking at the ships. They are incredible. Even the photographs are incredible.
And the USS Constitution leads
them in with fireboats and flyover and so forth. It's wonderful. And we have also visiting a couple of U.S. Navy ships, gray hulls.
Oh.
And those are good too. Many young people say, my grandfather was in the Navy, so I want to go aboard the USS Arlington, which will be here.
And you can do that too.
Oh, yeah. And that's all part of the experience. So you have gray hulls and you have sailing ships. And then the spectator craft. Great thing to do is to go out on Friday evening, the 10th, to Broad Sound, right off of Winthrop, and watch all 60 ships have dropped their anchor, and the sun's coming down, and you can just tool around and see these ships at anchor up close. It's really very, very delightful.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
We're
congratulations.
really excited. SailBoston.com. Dusty Rhodes is the boss, and it looks spectacular. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. Great to see you. We've been speaking with Dusty Rhodes, Executive Director of the spectacular Sail Boston and organizer of the summer's events. Go to sailboston.com to get all the scoop. Thank you again, Dusty Rhodes, for coming in. Up next...
Can you imagine you and me organizing something like this?
No, I can't organize my desk, obviously.
See you, Dusty.
Thank you very much. After this quick break, One Long Earring is back, treating us to a live performance in Studio 3. They're going to be in Provincetown at the end of July. We're going to hear all about...
And Crystal Ballroom before that.
That's right. Crystal Ballroom, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Learn something new.
I want to start with how crowds of people can act like fluids.
Yes.
What?
I mean, this is physics, so I love it.
Make a connection.
I have no idea who they voted for. I don't care. This tailgate in particular, everybody's welcome.
Dig a bit deeper.
We're often looking for a small secular liturgy for our lives, and poetry can provide that sometimes.
Stay curious with All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering 2 to 3 day courses and executive certificates for professionals seeking cutting-edge business insights on innovation, cybersecurity, AI, and more. Info at executive.mit.edu.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Jim Browdy, Marge Regan. We are at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us live at the library at noon to talk about this mess with her housing affordability bill. Now joined in costume, I think, by Faith Soloway and Bitch for a short but sweet live music Thursday special. They are the co-creators and some of the stars of this spectacular show that I saw a few months ago about, I guess you'd say, the lesbian feminist comeback tour, sort of like a lesbian Spinal Tap. Their show is June 28th at Crystal Ballroom in Somerville, great venue. June 30th in New York at Joe's Pub. And here's a little bit of sound from Faith in character as Joan Stone Suarez. What's the last name? Long?
Levy.
Excuse me. Levy. Suarez
Yeah,
Levy.
it's a great name.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Here she is. She's zooming with old band members like Jamie Ray from the Indigo Girls. Here it is.
You got my message about the one long earring reunion?
Look, you know I love the band, and I love music, and I love playing, but, like, I gotta take care of my dogs.
The dogs.
I've got 7 of them now, and I have
7 dogs.
8 cats.
8 cats?
And you know they're all rescues, so they need a lot of love.
They do need a lot of love. Faith and Bitch, it's great to see you both. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So elaborate on this. Tell people what's the play's about. Let's start with Faith.
Oh, wow. The play is about a group of women, lesbian feminists, that had their heyday maybe in the 80s, late 70s, and they're making a comeback. Should they make a comeback is the question. A lot of drama. Can they bring back the music without bringing back the drama?
Yeah.
Is what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I think it could be very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah, I like the Suarez Levy.
Thank
I like
you.
that.
Well, you know, I married someone and we went to the Guatemalan Wars together and sang to the young children and became part of the culture. So thus the Suarez.
Okay.
So what do you want to add about this? What tell people who are uninitiated?
The uninitiated, yeah. You know, I love the lesbian Spinal Tap reference. It
is. I mean, that is a fair description. As
Absolutely.
a consumer of your show, it is.
Yes, and Faith has written such a brilliant play in my mind that it's like, also we've said it right before the actual show, so it's kind of a play within a play. And so I like to also, for the viewers who are theater people, it's kind of like a Noises Off as well, meets lesbian Spinal Tap. So we're getting ready for this benefit at the Clotted Pot, the last feminist.
I forgot about that.
The last feminist cafe in the Northeast.
Dying breed.
Oh, God.
You're going to sing something, right?
We are. Yes.
Why don't we do that and then we'll talk a little. What are you singing?
We're singing one of our hits,
Surprise?
Making a
Okay.
Salad.
After
the surprise.
After many breakups, this is the song that would bring us back together again. Jim.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Making a salad?
Yes, it's making a salad.
Okay, great.
Deep Les for you, Marjorie.
Here we go.
Season's harvest, well, it yields the greens, and it takes good loving to know what that means. So, come on, baby, let me tell you what I'm dreaming of. We're making a salad, we're gonna toss it with love. Making a salad, ooh, making a salad. Yeah, yeah, making a salad, ooh, making a salad. Gonna toss it with love.
We got right to it. Ooh, take it, Terry.
So grab a cucumber and peel back the skin.
Now that's a savory way to begin.
'Cause the mood is right, it's quiet and it's calm.
Now grab that rubbery heart of palm.
'Cause we're making a salad. Ooh, we're making a salad. Yeah, yeah, making a salad. Making a salad,
gonna toss it with love. So come to the table with an open mind, so the oil and the vinegar can settle with time.
Dress me up, baby, in a chunky blue cheese.
Bring me to my knees, I'm begging you, please. Keep making that salad. Keep making that salad for me. Keep making that salad.
Sing with us, Margie.
Ooh, keep making that salad. Gonna toss it.
Gonna toss it.
We're gonna toss
Ooh,
it.
we're gonna toss it.
We're gonna toss it. Toss it. Gonna toss it with love.
That was the most moving performance we've ever had in the studio. That was so beautiful.
Riot. That was a riot. Okay, tell
Well,
me about,
good.
tell us and our listeners about the creation of this song, please. I mean, that is a riot. The hearts of palm, the cucumber peeling.
You know, you are like a genius. You know, you don't like that, right? But you really are. You're like a genius kind of. Yeah, well, whatever.
really
I knew she
are.
wouldn't like that,
Yeah.
but I mean,
You know.
you really.
Well, it's also I say in the show it's a song about sex if you don't get it.
Yeah, I thought it was
So
I could tell by your enthusiasm over there.
Yeah,
Terry's got the pelvic thrusts.
Yeah.
Marjorie's rubbing herself up against the table.
I
I don't think
am. That's
am I not
right.
supposed
We
to
gotta
say
get
that?
her there.
I
We
wasn't
gotta
supposed
get
to say that.
Yeah.
I really. Is this, I know this is a stupid question, but my kid and I were talking to each other quietly while we're at the Crystal Ballroom a few months ago,
Yeah.
and you were there. It looks like it's also huge fun to do, or is it because it's work? It's not. Is it huge fun?
It's absolutely
Is it
huge
really?
fun.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
we're I'm 60-ish.
Yeah.
And so to be able to play like this, and really now be the age of the character close, that I've been working on this character for 30 years, and
Well,
really,
you've done
you
it
know,
in other
yeah.
venues, right? Other formats,
Yeah,
right?
different formats, videos, and
Yeah.
it's just like she's always been there, and now I'm like, I'm close to the age of this woman, and I can inhabit it, and it is fun. And
What do you mean you've been working on it for 30 years?
I mean, I've been
This
in the folk
character.
scene. This
Okay,
character. I've been
this
in the folk
character.
scene for a pretty long time
Okay.
here, since the 90s. And I started doing a version of this character, kind of the uptight, folky woman who just has no sense of humor. And the songs that she might sing, and then the lesbian band that she might have been a part of. So if you know.
Are you trying to do something with this beyond? I mean, Crystal Ballroom
You
is
should.
fabulous, and I'm
This
sure
is
the
like,
New York
to me,
venue is
like
great.
a Broadway kind
well,
of
that's
thing.
what we. No,
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
we both think that.
Well, that's really. I feel like we feel like this population hasn't been seen, spoofed with humor. We get the bad reputation of the humorless lesbian kind of thing, and we ain't funny, but you know. So I think it's a fun. There's a serious message within it. Where there's this movement that the women couldn't quite, get, make work for a long time.
Well, I think that's feminism in general, the lesbian community
Yeah.
and feminism in general. Everybody's supposed to be such a...
No, that's not fair. That's not fair.
That reputation of not being...
Well, how about public media is the
humorless?
same, has
Yes.
the same reputation of being humorous.
Well, we're breaking that role, Jim.
By the way, you know what I haven't done once is told people how to get tickets.
Oh,
It's
great.
at the One Long Earring on Instagram. Is that the way you get tickets, or is there another way?
Yeah, if they go to the One Long Earring on Instagram, they'll link to our link tree, which has tickets for the Crystal Ballroom and Joe's Pub.
And
So, yeah.
yeah, and we have to mention Ian Brunell, who
Okay.
is the part proprietor of the Somerville Theater and Crystal
been a
Ballroom. He's been a
co-collaborator of Faith's for
since the
years.
mid-90s.
We've worked with Ian on Band in Boston.
Yes,
which you're
yes,
also
right,
in,
yes.
so,
That's right.
yeah,
And he
he's
does this
great.
amazing trivia
He's
night.
fabulous.
And he's
part of it.
he's been doing all the videos with us.
Yeah.
So
he's very much
that adds
he's
to
the
that
third
prong.
lesbian partner.
Okay, before you go, you're
Yes.
looking at each other like you had no idea what you were talking about when I said where to get tickets. Is it only at Instagram?
They could
At
get
the
him
One
on the One Long Earring on Instagram. They could also go to bitchmusic.com.
Oh, well, that's
There's
a little
my
easier.
website. Is that
Bitchmusic.com.
easier?
Yeah. For me,
Okay.
it would be.
Okay, fine.
Bitchmusic.com.
And of course, at the Crystal Ballroom's website
And
Joe's
Joe's
Pub
Pub.
website.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Thank you,
That's a
Jim.
little better.
Yeah,
than
thank
you're
you.
doing it.
I guess Jim's not on Instagram.
By the way,
is that
even
it?
though the two of you are fairly humorous, humorous, humorless.
Fairly.
It was great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys.
And I hope the people that we should say that for people who aren't watching on YouTube, the costumes are great.
Oh yeah,
the
we had
And
to
I've
do it.
seen the damn thing. It is spectacular. And if my daughter were here, she'd say the same thing.
Thank
Don't
you.
miss it.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, I'm
Don't miss
coming.
it.
I
Great to
gotta
see
get
you
more
both.
of
Great
that.
to see
Gotta
you.
get more of
Thanks
that.
a lot.
Thank you so much for coming
We'll
in.
see
This
you in
was
the
great.
salad bowl, Marjorie.
Absolutely, I'm ready.
Believe me,
I want to
you
be
will.
the heart of palm.
You're hired.
Okay. We've been talking to Faye Soloway and Bitch of One Long Earring. If that's any indication, absolutely spectacular
It is
show
spectacular.
about the lesbian feminist comeback tour. Find more for tickets and info at the One Long Earring on Instagram. Also at bitchmusic.com or at the sites again where they're going to be playing. Correct, Jim?
Yeah, June 28th at the Crystal Ballroom in Somerville, which is right above the Somerville Theater, and June 30th in New York at Joe's Pub.
So you can get the tickets right there.
But I'd go to bitchmusic.com. That's easiest
very
to
easy.
remember.
Okay, up next, we ask who's the bigger a-hole based on a scenario our team pulls from the internet. Today involves a man who takes a liking to a specific type of gluten-free bread, but his friend thinks he's a jerk because he isn't celiac, doesn't have that disease, and he doesn't need to be eating gluten-free bread. Weigh in next, Jim and Marjorie. That's who we are. This is BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's how-tos and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz. Their signature double clam chowder is available for purchase at all Market Basket locations. More at rogersfishcompany.com. And New England Botanic Garden at Tower Hill, a garden destination 50 miles from Boston. Visitors can discover summer with thousands of blooms, twilight experiences, art exhibitions, and educational programs for all ages. nebg.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org.
Oh, we're on. I'm sorry. Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. We're a little bit tight on time because we went a bit long because we really wanted to talk to Faith and Bitch, and we did. So if you're going to call on this, do it now. It's time for Am I the A-Hole? Today's prompt from the Reddit thread of the same name involves this woman who has taken such a liking to a particular loaf of bread at the local grocery store that she buys up all the available loaves whenever she goes so she can stock up. So far, no problem, right? Well, when she tells the friend about the bread, which happens to be gluten-free, that's the key, even though the person doesn't need gluten-free bread, just likes the taste, the friend is offended, even angry. His friend argues it's wrong to buy all the gluten-free bread at the store and compare it, this is the key, to using a disabled parking space if you are not disabled, or, for example, using the wheelchair-accessible bathroom stall at a public restroom. The bread enjoyer argues they're just being a consumer, looking at a product they enjoy, and purchasing it when they see it available. So who is the a-hole here? The person who buys all the gluten-free bread, or the critic who not only criticizes the purchase of all the loaves, but compares it to taking a disabled space or the wheelchair-accessible bathroom. The number is 877-301-8978. Again, we have very little time, so give us a buzz. Who's the a-hole?
Before we get any further, Jim,
Yeah.
it surprises me that you're mentioning the person taking the disabled space. Because I think that...
I parked in a fire lane once for like 30 seconds when we were at the old radio station.
No, that's not true.
That is totally true. It was like 30 seconds.
He was in shopping. Took him 45 minutes.
No, I was helping a person who was injured.
You were helping a person.
I was getting a bottle of wine. But I mean...
Not talking about this.
Well, Marjorie brought it up, so I have no choice.
Okay. No, I just
I
want
don't
to
do
get
this.
that.
So who's the a-hole? Let's hear it.
Well, I think since there are only 2 or 3 loaves in the special
At a
freezer
time,
section in the
supposedly,
store, she probably doesn't have to buy all 3 of them every week. She could buy 2 and then leave
She likes
one.
it. She says she eats that much by the time she goes back to the grocery.
Yeah, well, or she should talk, as they say in the suggestion thing, she should talk to the store manager about getting more of this particular bread so she's not wiping out the whole thing. But, there's probably other kinds of gluten bread in there, so I certainly don't...
bread.
Gluten-free bread. I certainly don't
Well, you
think...
would be wrong. She is not the a-hole.
Oh,
he is the a-hole,
he
not
is.
for criticizing her, by the way. I can live with that as long as he did it nicely. He is the a-hole for comparing taking all 3 loaves of gluten bread to parking in a disabled parking space and taking it away from a person who's disabled. You think that's comparable?
Well, I think if you have celiac disease and you can't get gluten-free bread, you're kind of up the creek.
Get another loaf of gluten-free bread or don't eat the damn bread.
Well, we don't
if you
know.
got to park, you got to park.
We don't know.
Have a gluten-free something else. You don't need to have a gluten-free sandwich. Have a gluten-free something else. I'm serious.
They wanted toast.
Well, fine. Want and need are two. Remember when Andy Card,
toast?
who's a former
No
state
toast?
rep,
Yep.
who was the chief of staff to George W. Bush, we said, can you get us an appointment? You're the chief of staff to George W. Bush. He was on our show. He said, I always say to someone who makes a request, there's a want and there's a need. You don't
That's right.
need an appointment.
You don't need
a gluten-free loaf of bread if you're gluten-free. You do need a disabled parking spot if you're a disabled person. The comparison is ridiculous, so he's the a-hole.
Okay. I think people that are gluten-free like their toast and their sandwiches.
Okay, so here's a rational person, anonymous texter. I am gluten-free. I'd love to know what brand this woman is buying.
I know. Well, they don't tell you. It's
No, they
very
don't. It's very
annoying.
sad.
First of all, this comes from Great Britain, so that's one of the problems. But it is a type of bread with fruit and cinnamon, dense and delicious. She uses it, or he uses it, routinely for eggs in the morning and toast as dessert. After I finish work, and I adore
toast. You love toast.
I do. I love toast.
The smell,
That's
the
my point,
texture,
Jim.
the
You're
taste.
saying screw the toast. They don't need toast.
For example, get gluten-free soy sauce instead and have that. Take a swig of that.
Soy sauce.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't think there's any gluten in milk.
Okay, so anonymous texter says that this is another rational one. The store can order more of that bread if they're prematurely selling out all the time. So the fault is clearly not the women. Let's take some
apparently
calls.
it's not just people that have celiac disease. It's also anybody with thyroid problems would wisely avoid the glyphosate used in wheat bread.
Okay, again, there are other gluten-free.
So thyroids
gluten-free
and
pasta.
gluten.
There's gluten-free
There's
pasta.
gluten-free
You ever
pasta,
had that?
that's
Have
right.
some pasta.
Yes,
have some pasta. Forget the bread.
Jim says, too bad if you want
Marjorie,
a
can I ask you a
sandwich.
question? Excuse me. I
or
know
a
this is
piece
off
of
topic.
toast.
If you decide you want to go get bread,
Yeah.
and they don't have bread at the supermarket, do you say, I'm not going to eat today
You know
because
something?
all I wanted was a loaf of bread?
There are some people that are extremely attached to bread.
Yeah.
And I'm one
well,
of
you
them.
are.
I am.
Well, have a boiled potato instead with some butter. That's all you need. Shift gears. Let's go to TJ in Milford, New Hampshire. Hey, TJ, what's up?
Hi, first time, long time.
We love
I
that.
eat nothing. Yeah, I love your show.
Thank you.
First time I've called, and I wanted to let you know this is important to me. I eat nothing but gluten-free.
Oops.
And I do have a favorite bread.
Okay.
It's a Franz brand out of Oregon, and I worry that there's not enough demand that people will keep it in the store. But I find it at Walmart.
There you
So
go.
If someone, somebody else is buying it, yeah.
Wait a second. No,
Thank
Marjorie,
you.
it's not
Thank
exactly.
You. She's making my
no,
point.
she's not
There's
making
only
your point.
2 or 3 of these
TJ,
loaves in the whole store, and she goes in, she wipes them all out.
So, but TJ, if that bread is that important to you, would you not do exactly what this woman did and buy every loaf if it was available?
No, I don't use it that fast. I buy one for me and one for my friend who has celiac. So, but I want to make sure it stays in the source. So I hope that somebody keeps buying it.
Now, TJ, let me ask you the same question Marjorie avoided, not very skillfully. If you went, and as much as you love the gluten-free bread and it was unavailable, would you say, I'm not going to eat any food until the bread is in the store? Or would you have some other gluten-free product?
Most of us who eat gluten-free know where to find this in many different places.
Exactly.
So we know where else to go. Yeah.
Now,
TJ, that was an extraordinary first
Thank
call.
you for
Make
calling,
another
TJ.
one soon, please.
Peter in Mystic says,
Yeah.
this is not like parking in a disabled parking space. The fine for buying gluten-free bread is not $150.
You think it should be $150?
$200.
Probably. No, I'm
Maybe
serious.
$250.
That's the attitude you have, which is really small-minded.
Wiping it all out. It's not buying the gluten-free bread.
She loves the bread.
It's there's only 2 or 3 loaves in
Well,
the
you know
whole
what you do
store.
if you're upset about that?
Maybe other
you
people-
get there before she gets there and buy the bread yourself. Seriously, this is not that complicated, Marjorie.
It is cinnamon, dense fruit bread, dense and delicious.
Yeah. You know, someday...
It's kind of like one of those fruit loaves you have at Christmas,
Yeah.
which I think are horrible, actually.
Well, it depends on the one. We've had them. Remember, we had
Yeah.
people sent it to us from that store in Austin, Texas,
Mhm.
which is the best one. They're incredible. kind of thing. Okay, so Kevin, you're in a car. We're talking about what? Kevin, can you wait one second? What do you want to read?
They're actually both a-holes. If this is all they have to worry about, they need to either get a job or get a life.
No, well, that's
a
really a
texter.
sad perspective. Kevin in a car, what's your take on this, please?
Well, pardon me. Well, it kind of pains me a little, Jim, to agree with you, but
good.
I'm paralyzed. I have a spinal cord injury, and I drive.
Oh, sorry.
And it's fine. People who park in handicapped spots without placards it's nowhere near what this is. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Okay.
And you know, how do you feel, Kevin?
I'm so glad you called. I want to know what you do if you are waiting for a spot.
It's a great question.
And somebody else who's, especially if they're like 18 years old and in perfect shape, takes away your
Good
spot.
question.
Do you wait
Kevin?
and scream at them, or do you just, what do you do?
Well, I've been paralyzed for a long time. I used to. But here's the reality is that you really don't know. Not all handicaps are visible. So if they have a placard, they have a placard. That said, drive around any big construction site anywhere in or around the city. I'm talking like a Suffolk type of construction site. And see how many pickup trucks these trades guys have placards in them.
Good point.
That is disturbing.
They all do.
That's like the service dogs.
This is my biggest pet peeve is handicap placard abuse. And it's not people who just park without a placard. That's just your mother did a bad job raising you. But it's people who have placards, but it's not theirs, and they use them.
Hey,
and
Kevin.
I see that every single day.
Kevin, since you're obviously a far better person than I am based upon this conversation, do you think it was that bad that I parked in the fire lane at Star Market for 30 seconds 20 years ago?
Is that all it takes? If it was 45, would have been bad?
Well, yeah. I guess. Maybe it was 45. Kevin, call us again. Thanks for your perspective. We really appreciate it. I forgot about this.
I know what you do when someone parks in a way you don't like. You block them in.
I block them in. If I have to sit there, by the way, if someone took a parking space from me, like at a retail establishment that I was next in line for, I will sit there blocking their car for days if that's what it takes. Here is Larry David. I forgot. This is a great scene. I saw this one on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's coming out of an ADA stall and he encounters a person in a wheelchair. Here it is.
What are you doing?
Using the bathroom.
That's my stall. Did you see the placard on the...
Yes, I know, but somebody was using the other one, so I...
Well, then you wait.
I couldn't wait. It was an emergency. I had to go.
There's one stall for me, and you're in it.
You know, if you were here, I would have given you first dibs. But honestly, I haven't seen a handicapped person in the bathroom, maybe ever. So I thought I could perhaps take my chances.
A handicapped person. That's nice. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, have you ever used a handicapped stall in a bathroom?
I have.
You have?
Yeah. If the bathroom's totally empty and nobody's in it.
Never. Can I tell you something?
I did in the library yesterday.
I once peed down my leg rather than, I shouldn't admit that, but rather than use the handicapped stall. We have time for one more
but
quick
not
one.
if it's crowded.
Caroline, you're in JP. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, Jim. I was married to a very brave husband who had mobility issues for many years. Many years. He resisted getting a plaque. He finally got it, and I got to tell you that you have no, it's not even beyond empathy. You don't respect people who really need that plaque. That's all I have to say.
Well, you said it beautifully. Caroline, thank you very much for the call. Is Edgar here? I want
One of
to,
the people
Edgar,
is asking,
run in here. I want to ask your opinion on gluten-free bread.
Why this person just isn't ordering the bread on Amazon, next day delivery, get it overnight.
Because they like that particular grocery store.
Taking all the bread is gluttonous or glutinous.
Did you hear this or did you not?
I mean, I didn't realize that for gluten-free bread, we're basically like living in USSR in 1987. It's like there's none of it. You got to queue up to get the gluten. Yeah, the shelves are empty.
Only 2 or 3 loaves, Edgar.
Unbelievable.
And she wipes them out.
Are you gluten-free? I know it's a bread. Okay,
No,
if you
bread-
were
bread all day.
If you
Oh,
were
me
and
too.
you
Give me the
loved
gluten.
the particular brand, and there were 3, you'd buy the 3, right? Exactly. I mean,
it's not a zero-sum game. The store could stock more. Also, what are we talking about? Can you get it online? Probably you can get it online. Also, most towns have more than one grocery store.
You know what Jim said? If you want a piece of gluten-free toast, too bad.
Yeah.
Just eat a baked potato. That's
Exactly.
what you said.
Or no,
It's
boiled
not the
potato. I said a
same.
boiled potato.
Or make your own bread.
Exactly.
You can
I've
make
done
your
that.
own
I'm gonna do that
gluten-free
this
bread.
afternoon,
Make your own
probably.
bread.
Brilliant
All right,
analysis.
what's on the
30
show?
seconds.
What's on the show?
What are you doing?
What are we doing on the show? We got Joan Donovan, our glitch
love
report.
Joan Donovan.
Glitch report. We're going to talk about the election conspiracy doom loop, as she calls it. Are we in trouble? Sounds like we might be.
Oh,
I think
God.
we are in trouble,
I know.
regardless of what she has to say.
Yeah,
We'll be
I
listening.
mean, I'm so worried about these elections, I can hardly stand it. Anyway, thank you very much, Edgar, and you and I are on the right page of this.
They've never run out of russet potatoes. I mean, I'm thinking about every time I've ever shopped, so you really don't even have a right to speak in this.
Yeah, well, russet potatoes aren't the same as gluten-free bread.
No.
As we all know.
No, I
it's
didn't say they
it's
were.
not just 2 russet potatoes in the whole store, Jim. Okay. Thanks for listening to us. Keep up with us 24/7 wherever our podcast. Check out our TikTok page, Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be at the Boston Public Library. Senator Elizabeth Warren is going to be with us at noontime to talk about her bipartisan housing bill that almost became law. Plus, Adam Raleigh, Cali Crossing for Press Play. Bubble Waves, our live music Friday guest, and the former ambassador of Spain, Ilan, who's a big-time Democratic fundraiser. He's going to talk to us a lot about political kind of stuff. And Tufts environmental engineer Steve Chopra on the reflecting pools algae.
He's quoted in the Washington Post yesterday. He was great.
We don't fool around. We go for the big-time
We
algae
do.
people.
Yeah. Oh, here she goes. Here she goes.
Top-notch algae experts. Only on GBH
That's
89.7.
We want to thank our crew. Zoe
truth to
Matthews,
that.
Nicole Garcia, Hannah Laws, Ariana Gonzalez, digital support Jack Siciliano, Patrick Leahy, John LeClaw Parker, and Jamie Bologna. Thanks to our stream wizards today. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
The Curiosity Desk is right after
Bye.
us, and then right after that is the Culture Show with Jared Paul.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Hope you have a great day. Bye. Bye.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, are Americans unknowingly queuing up in droves for a ride that almost nobody actually wants to be on? We call it the election fraud doom loop. In the latest edition of the Glitch Report, we'll explore how conspiracy theories become self-reinforcing, why they're spreading to the left, and what happens when nobody believes the votes in elections are real anymore. Spoiler alert, it's not good. Then we take another trip down memory lane with the GBH archives. This time, we shine a spotlight on some remarkable moments in TV history when kids with disabilities saw themselves represented on screen. And what if humans were singing long before we were speaking? We'll explore some of the universe's most mind-bending mysteries with the host of Nova's podcast, Particles of Thought. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
I'm Louise Schiavone. The Supreme Court has voted 6-3 to greatly alter the landscape for people with temporary protected status, the program known as TPS. The justices gave the Trump administration the green light to end that program and begin mass deportations of people who've been living and working legally in the U.S. for years. 17 countries have the designation. The justices ruled to overturn a jury verdict for a Missouri man who claimed the weed killer Roundup caused his cancer. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports they said state claims are preempted by federal pesticide law.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh delivered the 7-2 court ruling, which hands a victory to Monsanto and its new owner, Bayer. The company had been facing billions of dollars in claims over glyphosate, the key ingredient in its popular weed killer. The court majority says federal law overrides lawsuits in state courts over the company's alleged failure to warn about the product. Plaintiff lawyers say the Supreme Court's now given a shield to corporate America and slammed the courthouse doors on people sickened by pesticides. The Trump administration sided with Bayer in the case. Consumer advocates worry the ruling will shift power from states trying to protect residents when federal regulations fall short. Carrie Johnson, NPR News.
Venezuela is responding to the effects of two powerful earthquakes. At least 164 people have died. Hundreds have been injured. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is sending search and rescue teams.
That's their most immediate need right now is search and rescue efforts. They have a much of collapsed buildings, and so they'll need a lot of help in terms of digging through that. The airport there is badly damaged, so we'll have to rely on the Department of War to deploy assets there. And then we're also helping them with some overhead imagery, especially in coastal areas where they don't have full visibility over what the damage has been and what the impact has been.
Secretary of State Rubio. The Army general leading U.S. forces in Europe and Africa will retire abruptly. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports General Chris Donahue was the last U.S. soldier to leave Afghanistan in 2021.
General Donahue is a combat-decorated veteran of U.S. wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. He served in Special Forces and led the elite Delta Force. To the public, he may be best known from a blurry night vision photograph of him as the last American soldier to depart Afghanistan during the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces under the Biden administration. Some critics on social media have blamed Donahue without evidence for the casualties during that pullout. It appears Donahue's departure makes him the latest highly regarded general to be pushed out by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who has blocked dozens of flag officers from promotion. In April, Hegseth angered lawmakers from both parties when he fired Army Chief of Staff General Randy George without explanation. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. School officials, elected officials, and sustainability advocates from Newton and Arlington toured two Brookline schools last week to study a food waste reduction and composting program. Brookline.news reports the visitors toured Driscoll School and Brookline High School's freshman campus, where they observed students separating food scraps from trash at cafeteria composting stations and meals served on reusable trays with metal utensils instead of disposable products, as well as the dishwashing capacity to clean them. They also saw share tables where students leave items like uneaten fruit and unopened milk cartons for other students to take. Town officials say the program has diverted some 470 tons of material from landfills since 2022 and has become a model for neighboring school districts. The Grand Marshal for Chatham's 4th of July parade is one of the town's last surviving World War II veterans, maybe even on the whole Cape. 102-year-old John Zippo will lead the procession down Main Street into a village convertible. In a village convertible, Zippo was a member of the Army's 1st Infantry Division in Germany. The Cape Cod Chronicle has the story about him. And get this, he served as a guard during the Nuremberg trials, which included standing watch over the infamous prisoners that were linked to that trial. In sports, the Red Sox open a 4-game series with the Yankees tonight at friendly Fenway. AAA baseball, the Woo Sox host Toledo at Polar Park, and there are 6 World Cup matches on tap today, 2 at 4, 2 at 7, and 2 at 10 p.m. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, working to help protect small businesses and the owners that run them, offering customizable coverages to salons, accounting firms, tradespeople, and more. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Why don't you join us there? Well, in the past few years, we've seen a record number of conspiracy theories that have been fostered on and sustained by online platforms. We're also seeing a sharp increase in political violence. And not just rhetoric, talking actual physical threats and violence. Question: are those two things related? Well, that is something Justin Hendricks, CEO and editor of Tech Policy Press, has a lot to say about. He's the author of a new study with recommendations and guidelines for companies to fight the spread of conspiracies online. He's joining us now along with Joan Donovan. Joan's the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute, a BU assistant professor of journalism and emerging media studies, a Curiosity Desk contributor, and of course co-creator of the Beaver emoji. We'll also talk a little bit about how conspiracy chatter is contributing to something Joan calls the election fraud doom loop. Yikes. This is, of course, our latest edition of the Glitch Report. Justin, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Joan, welcome back.
Awesome. Love to be here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Justin, I want to start with you in this study. Study is called Political Violence in the Digital Age, What Online Platforms Can Do to Mitigate Escalating Threats. Bit of a bleak title, but it's a serious topic. Tell us about it. What's it all about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say I am the author, but also with my colleague Yael Eisenstadt, who's at the Cyber Safety Research Center. And this is actually another report in, I guess, what is a sort of ad hoc series that Yael in particular has been part of for the last couple of 3 years, working on these issues. And, what we set out to do is sort of look at this intersection between what we know about social media, online media, and political violence, and ask really, what more can the platforms do? Even though we know that tech platforms, by and large, have relaxed their posture on dealing with issues like this, they've relaxed their policies, they have reduced their trust and safety teams, they have taken a number of other steps that give us reason to doubt whether they'll certainly take as an aggressive posture in the midterm elections as they have in 2020, 2024. Which we might argue, was never enough. There's more reason to believe that in fact, there'll be a deficit this go round as well. So we're trying to make recommendations. Nevertheless, still time if in fact the executives that run these corporations want to step up and do something to help democracy.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me. So one of the things that I was really grabbed by in this report is, we've been doing this a long time, Justin. Justin's Tech Policy Press is one of the, if not the best place to get your news about what's happening in government about tech, and then also to understand from the perspective of not just advocacy organizations, but Justin's been able to bring in academics, policymakers, all kinds of people into this Tech Policy Press site that give a very rounded perception of what's happening out there. And what we've all noticed in this report shows us is that these tech companies took a major step back when Trump took office. Yeah. And in some ways, some of the recommendations in Justin's report and Yale's report is reheating our own nachos, right? Like we've been asking for years.
Yeah, you're like, and of course, just to say again, here's a recommendation that we've had for a very long time.
Yeah, and, one of them is obviously when you spot conspiracy, disinformation, medical misinformation, that you don't amplify it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't use the design of the system to spread that far and wide. And of course, different platforms are going to have different rules about how to do that. But what is nice about these kind of reports historically is that it actually helps us build a case over time that it's not necessarily about freedom of speech online. It's really about the design of these platforms and what they choose to amplify and what they don't.
Yeah. One of the recommendations from the study that struck me is this one, which is enforce rules equally, including against high value users. I mean, do we find is there a stratification going on online around users, which is to say, are some being treated differently than others, and is that inherently a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And Joan can speak to this as well, but in particular, there have been a range of different schemes to kind of treat elite users on platforms differently over the years. Of course, you can think about maybe most visibly the kind of blue checkmark system that Twitter had, but also schemes that Meta had around how to handle politicians and celebrities and things of that nature. And we know that in particular when it comes to heads of state and others, effectively or in practice, there's a kind of different set of rules. There are kind of public interest exceptions and things of that nature. These are not easy things to navigate. They're not easy things for platform owners to deal with on some level. And yet we hold to this recommendation that effectively these platforms should uniformly apply and fairly enforce existing rules to all users, regardless of their status, political orientation.
Yeah, and this goes
count.
back directly to Trump and the way that Trump was using these platforms.
Sure.
And going into the 2020 election, there was quite a bit of technology that had been built, quite a bit of knowledge within these companies about what they were going to come up against in the election. Of course, over the years, they've found that it costs too much to do content moderation, especially on politicians who will sue them or use the power of the state against them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, many of us probably have memory hold the fact that President Trump was deplatformed
Absolutely.
by
Yeah.
Facebook and by Twitter. I mean, you took a sitting head of state offline for the last 20 or so days of his presidency.
Yep.
That was unheard of, and it really revealed to us the power of these platforms. Of course, now those who want to be heads of state now run these platforms.
Yeah.
Trump has his own Truth Social, which he owns and operates, as well. Elon Musk, who's using his enormous wealth to have huge impacts on society and politics, now has a platform that is so to the point of, I don't even know, hubris.
Yeah.
It's so conspiracy loaded and overwhelming to be on that platform that a lot of people have just moved away from X. But it's actually...
But a lot of people also have not moved away
Yes.
from X.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But
Yeah.
it does show us that there's power in these platforms in ways that the state doesn't have power, and especially the power to set reality, right? To set the terms of the debates that we're going to have, to set the terms of the narratives that we're going to keep seeing repeated. Repetition's a big part of these platforms
Yeah.
as well. And so with these reports and all of the recommendations that civil society is putting into these tech companies, the tech companies themselves used to care about democracy. And we talked last week about Henny Farid at UC Berkeley and Dartmouth, the
Yep.
deepfake detective scholar. And Dr. Farid's work, he says, the platforms have given up. They're not interested in this because now they're moving on to military contracts and big government.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Justin Hendricks of Tech Policy Press and misinformation expert Joan Donovan about the spread of political misinformation. Justin, I wonder if you could draw the line a little bit clearer for us between, what we see happening on these platforms and the rise in political violence, which is kind of, the end result of this to a certain extent in this study from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that has become clear, just based on empirical evidence, including, some of the work of Joan and their colleagues across the country over the last few years, is that there's a sort of nexus between some of these phenomena, things like polarization, things like online hate speech, and then events in the offline world. We see this in particular with certain events that have occurred, whether it's assassination attempts or violent attacks on politicians or election workers, where there's a clear nexus to online activity, online radicalization, various other forms of phenomena, and we also see that connection. Not always causally, but certainly in a kind of worrisome correlation between just the overall level of affective polarization in the country and this kind of growing phenomena of political violence. It's hard to tease these phenomena out all the time, and tech executives often will try to kind of hide behind uncertainty and empirical data or pick and choose studies. But I think what we conclude generally is that when you step back from it, the evidence base suggests there is a reason for real concern, and that clearly the actions that these platforms take, the design decisions they make, the content moderation decisions, what they choose to resource and not, what they choose to monetize and not. These are decisions that have a real impact on the world and can have a real impact on political violence.
Joan, you sort of mentioned it. I mean, we're talking about these platforms. I mean, obviously, Elon Musk, who it is, at least occasionally, and has been a political figure, among other things. I mean, he owns X. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what's going on with him and Ro Khanna and how that relates to what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so Ro Khanna is obviously a representative in the government, and he's been using this study that came out in The Lancet last year, the one of the premier medical academic journals that used epidemiology to look at what are the estimated amounts of death that are going to happen from Doge's cuts to USAID. And it's astronomical. The Lancet predicts, or the authors predict, and this was an international study, including UCLA, but also scholars from the UK and other places. So we're not dealing with, a US invested kind of funding stream. We're talking about real science now. And what they estimate is that Musk's actions are going to cost the death of 14 million of the poorest people in the world, and 4.5 million of them are going to be children. And so Ro Khanna pointed this out on a podcast, and it really lit up Musk, who obviously last week was the first trillionaire, not so much this week.
Yeah, been a little bit of a roller coaster
Yes,
ride.
yeah. And but what he did when he bought Twitter and turned it into X is he knew he was buying a political machine. He didn't buy it because Twitter was going to make all of this money.
Yeah.
He actually rolled it into SpaceX. And it's one of the things that's troubling SpaceX now is the uncertainty of Musk's AI business, especially that Grok has been such a roundabout failure in terms of its public adoption, but that doesn't stop Grok, of course, from being integrated into our military. And so we are now at a crossroads where our technology that we use for consumers is now technology that is also a weapon of war. And if we don't start to think about what are the barriers between the kinds of information we want these companies to have, we're going to be in a whole load of trouble in terms of, domestic surveillance. And the other thing is these technologies are not that good. There's a lot of facial recognition technology that misrepresents people, misidentifies people all the time, especially Black women, Asian people. And so there's something about this technology that we are being forced to adopt. And Musk is really at the forefront of trying to push all of these systems into one company that he would control. And that would effectively give him control over the communications of millions of people, as well as the communications in space, where he estimated to own 70 to 80% of the satellites. And so Musk has been building a communication infrastructure empire with Peter Thiel in the open for the last 20 years or so, since PayPal. And unfortunately, we're now in this crossroads where we know these technologies are political animals. And they're not something that is easily wielded by the public to call for accountability. And so Musk has really been able to insinuate himself into politics, and Thiel as well, in a way that is somewhat invisible and unaccountable, of course, which the irony, of course, of him coming in, yelling about unelected bureaucrats,
Sure.
Spending tax money, and then him shutting down USAID, which is going to cause a lot of famine.
Is it different when we talk about, Elon Musk or Peter Thiel? How different is that from, I think, half a generation ago, we to a certain extent talked about figures like the Koch brothers this way as these kind of like people who were wielding a lot of money, a lot of influence, a lot of power on the political process in the background. But they didn't necessarily own a media company. It also wasn't the digital era that we're in now. And so is this somehow different or differently dangerous if you are a person who sort of looks at that and says that's a bad thing for democracy?
Well, I would say so. I mean, Justin and I are both comm professors, so that hits home because politics are downstream from culture, but culture is downstream from infrastructure. So the ways in which we organize our communication in society are also the ways in which we organize resistance, right? If we want to have people that are able to think and write and read, then inserting AI into systems that, 7-year-olds are using is the bad way to go. But Justin probably has some more.
Yeah, go on,
nuanced.
Justin.
Well, I mean, I think that's it's well said, Joan. And I would just say, we had a series on Tech Policy Press at least 18 months ago. It might have been more than 2 years ago, called "The Coming Age of Tech Trillionaires," and effectively trying to imagine the implications for democracy, and to some extent to try to get at this question that you just asked, which is there something peculiar about this tier of elites that we're seeing kind of coming along now versus elites in past. And in some ways, the phenomena are similar. Seek political power, try to command resources, look for ways to control the popular debate, that type of thing. But in some ways, I think with Musk, we do see a very singular phenomenon, one that looks different from things we've seen in past. And for some of the reasons that Joan has mentioned, it's the joining up of so many phenomena. And also the global nature of it. I mean, the fact that this individual has so many interests in so many nations, so many entanglements with so many foreign governments, and so many resources and assets. If he, for instance, listens to this podcast, doesn't like something that one of us says, I'm sure could dispatch a huge army of lawyers, at the drop of a hat. And we're seeing that happen, right? To others who may say things against him. But maybe connecting it a little to the report, we saw in the same week that Musk briefly became the world's first trillionaire, him effectively contribute to what were racist pogroms in Belfast, on X. And it's just sort of not lost on me, I think, that we're in this extraordinary moment, right, where this individual who commands a platform uses it in the way that he has chosen to do.
This is the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Justin Hendricks of Tech Policy Press and misinformation expert Joan Donovan. This is our latest version of the Glitch Report. Well, speaking of Elon Musk and looking at an upcoming midterm election, which is happening in, as we're describing right now, I don't think we've ever quite been exactly where we are. Mm-hmm. So there's, I think, some open questions about how this is going to have an impact on midterm elections. I don't know if anybody's 100% sure. We've also seen, obviously the, misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories around elections have been with us for a few years, writ large lately. But right now we're seeing some circulation out in the world about Elon Musk interfering in the 2024 election. Where does that fit into all of this?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about what does it mean when two parties, the only two parties in the U.S. no longer believe in voting. Yeah. And so I'm calling this the election fraud doom loop. And it came about, I'd always thought that QAnon was a bit of a trick against the right, the right wing completely abandoned the idea that there had been fair elections all the way back to at least 2016 when Trump won, but, complained a lot about winning. And then from there, you saw, as others have tracked and Pew have tracked public statistics, there started to be this grand distrust on the right of fair elections. That's creeping into the left. And it's coming in through Elon Musk's ex-lover, Ashley St. Clair, who has been going on a lot of the popular online YouTube podcasts talking about her relationship to him, talking about, all of the palace intrigue of what it was like to be on his planes and things. But every interview, she stops and says, well, read these text messages that he sent to me about the 2024 election and how he's got 10,000 space lasers and that they're not going to see this coming. And what I'm noticing is that on the left, even if people don't want to believe this, because there's actually no proof, right? It's an extraordinary claim with very little substantive understanding of what would go into manipulating elections in 50 states, or at least 6 or so. And so it's creeping in, and unfortunately it's starting to envelop the Democrat Party, this idea that maybe rich people did interfere in the elections, which we could say they did in terms of the amount of capital they've put in, right? We know that elections are unfair because people with more money have more of an influence and a say. But there's something else happening here where we don't know enough about the technology. The technology is obviously hidden from view. We're not inspecting it. We don't really know what's going on in space. But we can know what's happening on the ground. And we know that these machines, were not manipulated by Venezuelan algorithms, as was said in 2020, and et cetera. And so I'm thinking about this as an election fraud doom loop. So when we get into these doom loops in society, it becomes really hard, even if you have no you have no proof to disprove something, right? So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you can't argue with
It's
a
the Hall of
ghost.
Mirrors.
Yeah.
It's
But it's huge online. And last week when we were talking about Candace Owens and the exploding microphone theory around Charlie Kirk, I was also thinking about this. Like, if we start to believe too much in these wild tales of intrigue and skepticism, usually what follows very quickly is a scapegoat. And so I do see that, now that Ashley St. Clair is out there and people are wondering if they should trust her, she's going to be a tour de force come September, October, because there are a lot of things that she's also tied up in litigation that she can't talk about with her former lover. And she had a child with him. And so she's going to have to deal with that for the rest of her life. But what's interesting is that the distrust that everybody's feeling about fair elections could also trigger this kind of political violence that Justin's been studying.
Well, I mean, here's some sound right here. Somebody who's kind of on your wavelength on this, Joan, is former President Barack Obama. Some remarks on growing U.S. disillusionment with government during a speech at the unveiling of his presidential center. Let's have a listen.
When we lose faith in each other, when we stop believing that voting matters, that citizenship matters, that our collective voices matter, that how we treat each other no longer matters, then we give away our power to decide our own futures. We open the door to the most ruthless or the most careless or the most fearful among us.
I mean, it's sobering. It's very powerful to hear it from a former president, because I think he detects what the rest of us are feeling, which is that if we can't rely on elections, then democracy becomes a scam.
What do we do, Justin? You got an answer for? Come on, help us out.
Oh gosh, well that's a big question. What do we do in the long run? But I think in general, if there's a listener out there wondering what to do, I mean, it's get involved. Get involved in some democratic activity of some sort. And that could be merely connecting with your neighbors. It could be, organizing your block association. It could be, doing something that isn't necessarily tied to national politics or to some of the bigger issues that we've talked to here. But certainly, as someone who, obviously is a proponent of democracy, small d, as an idea, as a concept, it's a practice. It's something we all have to engage in every day.
All right. We've been speaking with Joan Donovan. She's the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute, a BU Assistant Professor of Journalism and Emerging Media Studies, and a Curiosity Desk contributor. With her today, Justin Hendricks, CEO and editor of Tech Policy Press. Joan, Justin, thanks so much for being with us today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you. And everybody go to Tech Policy Press, please.
There you go.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Thanks so much to you both.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're cracking open the GBH archives for a look back at representation for kids with disabilities, ahead of an event right here at GBH called Disability ReFramed, celebrating our childhoods on TV. The event is tonight. The conversation is next. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, a declaration in harmony. Rhode Island-based Ensemble Altera brings its finely tuned chamber sound to GBH's state-of-the-art Fraser Performance Studio. Led by founder and director Christopher Lowry, the choir performs from its world premiere choral work, Declarations, part of our countdown to 250 programming, with music that asks what freedom, nationhood, and belonging sound like. That and more in The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Maine Maritime Museum. Their new exhibit, Resounding, highlights the resilience and traditions of Maine's Indigenous and Black maritime communities, featuring both historic artifacts and contemporary art. MaineMaritimeMuseum.org. And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with wellness, care, and support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. CornerstoneCanton.com.
listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, GBH is either a producer or host of several beloved children's shows, many, in fact, like Arthur or Sesame Street. You, of course, probably know that Arthur is an aardvark who loves to read, and Sesame Street is a place where the sunny days are sweeping the clouds away. But did you know that these shows and a number of other public broadcasting children's programs have long made it a point to feature characters with disabilities? That legacy is something that is being celebrated tonight right here at GBH. The event is called Disability ReFramed, celebrating our childhoods on TV. You can find more information at wgbh.org/events. But here right now, to give us a little bit of a sneak peek ahead of the event, we welcome GBH's own Senior Accessibility Specialist Claire Houston and media historian Michelle Kelley. Claire and Michelle, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hi, great to be here.
So what is the event tonight? Tell us, sketch it out for us a little bit. What's going to happen?
So tonight we're going to be joined by two amazing panelists, Emily Ladow, who's a disability rights activist, and Adrienne Anatolan, who's an amazing violinist. Both of them are disability activists who were impacted by children's media and seeing other kids with disabilities on children's media or being on it themselves. So we're going to have a really great conversation about the importance of telling stories of kids with disabilities and allowing kids to see those stories and what it means to see someone like you on TV.
Sounds pretty good. Michelle, what's your role in all this?
So I helped curate the special collection, which is called Representing Children with Disabilities on Public Television, that is sort of featured as part of this event. So it's a collection of 38 episodes of children's programs representing children with disabilities, 8 of which actually have updated accessibility features, including audio descriptions and closed captions.
Very cool. So we've got a couple of clips which come from the archives, and I want to take a listen to a few and kind of talk a little bit about them. So we're going to start with a clip of a child named Timmy Cummings showing other children how he reads Braille. This is from the GBH TV show Zoom. Let's hear a little.
Hey, a Braille alphabet card. Let me look and see how nice they did it. Let me see. Ooh, it says. Let me see if they have the Braille alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, blah, 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 blah. X, Y, Z. What's this now? This is written in Braille. Can you read it? Yes, I can read it.
So that's a little moment from Zoom. Tell us more about Zoom, just in general, for the few people who might not know about this show.
Right. Usually when I talk about Zoom with folks, they are familiar. So this was a children's television program that WGBH produced. The first iteration was in the 70s, from 1972 to 1978. And yeah, it famously featured no adults on set. It's just kids, and really engaged viewers at home and asked for them to submit suggestions for content to include. Zoom featured a number of Zoom guests who are children with disabilities, and so they're essentially these short film segments that profile the kids, give a sense of their everyday lives. What's cool about the Timmy episode is he also appeared on set with the cast. So you see him in the film segment and get a sense of what his life was like, both at home and at school. But you also see him interacting with the cast on set and talking about reading and writing in Braille.
Do we know what happened to Timmy?
So I believe, and I just learned about this recently, I think that he was from Winchester, Massachusetts, and I think he is still in the Boston area, and is involved in the accessibility and disability community. Claire, I don't know if you know more about, what Timmy is doing these days.
Claire?
Yeah, so he lives in Seattle now.
Oh, okay.
But he was very involved in Boston. He was one of the founders of the Beat baseball team here in Massachusetts. So baseball for people who are blind. And he's gone on to really have a really incredible career.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, let's have another listen to a clip. I believe this is also from a Zoom episode. This is about a child with something called Larsen syndrome. Let's have a little listen here.
My name is Dee Armstrong, and I'm 12 years old. I was born with Larsen syndrome. I had dislocated hips, dislocated elbows, dislocated knees, and clubbed feet. I've had body cast, leg casts, back brace, and leg braces, canes, crutches, wheelchair, and anything else you can think of around in that area. I've been going to school for handicapped kids for a long time. Roland, how are you doing today? What's the next class? We all have the same interests and stuff. Plus, I understand them and they understand me.
So, Claire, what stands out to you in this episode?
So this episode is really amazing, just watching Dee sort of go about life and all of the things she's up to. But the thing that's really, really cool about this episode is sort of what happened after this episode aired.
Oh, go on.
So another little girl watching this episode who also has Larsen syndrome wrote into GBH and asked to get put in touch with Dee. GBH facilitated that connection. The two girls became friends. They've grown up. That little girl who wrote into GBH is Ellen Ladow, the mother of our host at the event tonight, Emily Ladow.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's unbelievable. Michelle, when we look at the event or we look at the collections, I mean, we heard a couple of clips that are examples, but tell us a little bit more about the kinds of things that people are going to see at the event tonight, and also just the kinds of stuff that was happening in public broadcasting, that makes this so important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what the collection does, and I should say that the National Center for Accessible Media, so Claire's team, sort of came to the American Archive with the idea for this special collection. It really highlights the representation of children with disabilities in earlier programs. So a lot of the collection features programs from the 1970s. The latest material is from the late 90s. And I think it shows that there's this historical precedent for positive representations of kids with disabilities that you see on kids programming today, that this goes back, right? And I think a lot of these shows are not so much Zoom, but some of the other programs have been largely forgotten. And I think it's important to kind of bring to the fore that there was this historical precedent, that there were these programs in the past. And yeah, they do, they aim to do a lot of the same things that children's programming today tries to do in terms of representing disability.
Claire, I see you vigorously nodding there, so go ahead and weigh in.
Yeah, I think the fact that a lot of these shows have been forgotten is what makes me so excited about this collection. We've been able to go and find all of these amazing shows that were created for so many different purposes. These were not just pure entertainment. Some of this was coming from an era where kids with disabilities were segregated entirely and didn't have access to mainstream education. So kids without disabilities weren't interacting with kids with disabilities.
Yeah.
So some of these shows were created specifically with the idea of how do we make sure that integration in classrooms goes really well? How do we make sure that non-disabled kids have a great opportunity to understand how to interact with other kids with disabilities?
Do we have a sense, you talk about the air and do we have a sense of why it was that public broadcast, places like GBH and other public broadcasting stations, why were they doing this in the 70s? Like, why was it happening?
So there's a few, going back to like the history of public media, the mandate is to serve underserved communities. And so I do think that plays a part, that public media was addressing this issue when maybe commercial media wasn't. Also, Zoom specifically received money from what was at the time the Office of Education to create Zoom segments featuring Zoom guests with disabilities. And this was following the passage of legislation that mandated that public schools needed to provide free and equal access to education to all kids, including kids with disabilities. So yeah, particularly the segment with Dee was partially funded by the U.S. government.
So if folks want to get involved in some way in this event tonight, what can they do? How can they do it? Are there, can I still come 5:30 to 8 or something? Right? What's going on? Give me the details.
Yeah, come on down to GBH, you can still register online, going to the events page and fill out a registration form, and we'd love to have you there. It'll also be live streamed, so you can watch it online now or later.
Okay, so I can either come in person or I can watch the live stream. Perfect. Sounds great. All right, we've been speaking with GBH's Claire Houston and Michelle Kelley ahead of the event, Disability ReFramed, Celebrating Our Childhoods on TV. That's here at GBH. It's 1 Guest Street, 5:30 to 8. There's also that virtual version that kicks off, I think, at 7, and then you can watch it later if you want to as well. There's all kinds of information about the event at wgbh.org/events, so check it out. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you.
Good luck tonight.
Thanks.
Coming up, some of life's biggest questions asked and answered. We get a sneak peek at the new season of Nova's spectacular podcast, Particles of Thought. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. Don't go anywhere.
When we look back at the American Revolution, we're not just looking at history. Each story reveals how a young democracy struggled with questions that still echo today. When we look at our past, we uncover what remains fragile now. Discover our series From Colony to Commonwealth at gbh.org/America250.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Brookmeadow at Cobb Center, an assisted living community offering wellness, care, and support services, including an on-site fitness specialist to help seniors stay physically active. More at brookmeadowslr.com. And M&M Skylights, servicing Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Their team is part of the Velux Skylight Specialist Network and is committed to helping improve the air quality in homes or businesses. Consultations and more information at mmskylights.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Why don't you join us there? Well, have you ever woken up with a sudden thirst to know in detail the anatomy of a fruit fly? Or have you ever just pondered what the very, very, very edge of a black hole looks like? Well, from Carl Sagan to Neil deGrasse Tyson, America has long had a soft spot for scientists who can make rocket science feel a little less like it's about science and more like it's about, well, rockets. Well, we have one of the best rocket scientists turned science communicators right here at GBH, Hakeem Oluseyi. He is the host of the excellent video podcast from GBH and the producers of Nova called Particles of Thought. The topics run the gamut from black holes to how fame affects the brain. Occasionally, it even gets a little romantic. Here's what it sounds like.
Ever wonder what happens to your brain when you're in the throes of romantic love?
Yeah, you get really stupid and decide to get married.
Yes, you do get really stupid. But the neuroscience translation of real stupid is you get deactivation of the amygdala. Your fear area, your fear area is not as active.
Well, the team there just taped a bunch of interviews for season 2, which is rolling out right now on YouTube and wherever it is you get your podcasts. Hakeem Oluseyi is also the author of the book, Why Do We Exist? The 9 Realms of the Universe That Make You Possible. And he's with us right now on the Curiosity Desk. Hakeem, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so I tried to do a little bit there at the top, but tell us what's the pod all about for folks who have not tuned into this or turned on to this yet. What's the whole notion of the pod?
Oh, man. So basically, you get the inside scoop on the latest happenings at the greatest extent of human exploration and questioning. And, you know, I'm a fan of this stuff. So our conversations feel more like conversations than interviews. So a lot of the people that provide reviews say it feels like just sitting in with 2 scientists who just love what they do.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good. What were some of what did you take on in season 1? And then we'll try to get some details and some sneak peeks from you about season 2. But what are some of the topics that you have covered, that you have explored so far?
Man, so I had a conversation with my very first paleobotanist, Kirk Johnson. I didn't even know that was a word, but he runs the American Museum of Natural History. And I found interesting things out, like tree rings, right? Like in the tropics, they don't have rings, many of the trees, because there are no seasons. It's the same season all year. So you can't really date them. How fossils form, right? He talked about, it has to die and then be buried really fast. We talked about anxiety. We did a lot of neuroscience. We looked at de-extinction. We talked about black holes. I had one Nobel Prize winner, Adam Rees. We talked about dark energy and the accelerating expansion of the universe. Just a nerdy good time.
Yes, indeed. All right, so what's the story with season 2 now? I mean, is it all done and you're rolling them out? Or are you still kind of in the middle of it? What's been happening and what can you tell us about?
Yeah, so we've had one episode uploaded. We have completed, all the episodes have been filmed as of earlier this week. And we've had a paleontologist, a neuroscientist, a paleoanthropologist, a roboticist, a geophysicist, a mathematician, a cognitive science. So we're going from the brain to the planet to the ancient times of life on Earth. And it is just, and then we talk about fusion, and and that is one of the most fascinating episodes of what is the state of fusion energy research right now, and how close is it to commercialization?
Why do you like this stuff so much? Like, is it just like it has ever been thus for you, or like what is it?
Yeah, man, I've always said. What is my phrase? I said hippies, nerds, and weirdos. Those are my people. Hippies, nerds, and weirdos. So this is a bunch of nerds, and you'd be surprised how often nerds turn out to be hippies and weirdos.
Yeah.
So
in the Venn diagram, it's basically just one circle, right?
There's a little bit,
little at the edges, but mainly one big circle. Yeah,
man. But it is. Like, I get to ask these questions of these people that are really at the cutting edge.
Yeah.
So typically, if you're a researcher, you talk to the people in your field that are at the cutting edge.
Yeah.
But if you look at the course of my history and science, I've called myself a science mercenary because I've moved from field to field. Unlike many people, I get bored.
Yeah.
So, I just love the breadth of exploration. And you also get to see some of the people's actual lives.
Yeah.
And, people think that you got to be from you had a great education, right? But there are a lot of people who are top-rate researchers now who were terrible students, who never went to college right out of high school. They went later and still became a top researcher in the field. So I think that human element is also something pretty amazing about the pod.
The human element thing, to me, it strikes me as like very, very important because whether we realize it or not, I think a lot of people, to a certain extent, when especially when you talk about like high level research, Nobel winners, et cetera, you sort of get this idea in your head that they are made from different stuff than you are in some way,
Right.
And it's I think there is something very valuable in like touching on the human side of these people whose brains are in very esoteric places,
Yeah. We set it up like that, right? When we're kids, because your parents are big hypocrites, right? Don't do this when they did the exact same thing, right? Teachers, same thing, right? We were
do
just
as I
like
say,
you.
not as I do. That's what my dad always says. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And, but there is a phrase, they're not going to do what you say. They're going to do as you do. But the point is that, we look at people at the end of a process and think that that's who they were when they started that process.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of, not maybe 50% of the time, it's not. Don't get me wrong. There are some people, right? There's a lot of scientists I know who are generational, right? Their parent, their grandparent were also scientists. But then there's folks like me, neither of my parents even graduated high school. So, there's a place for everybody who's really interested in it. We're not different kind of people. We're just people who, fell in love with it and stuck with it and pursued it. And I think the vast majority of humanity can do what I do.
Yeah. You're listening to Curiosity Desk. We're talking with physicist Hakeem Oluseyi, host of the Nova podcast, Particles of Thought. Well, of course, with this pod, but with lots of stuff that you do. I mean, one of the themes in your work is basically like accessibility of esoteric topics, or like big big fundamental questions, but trying to do it in a way that is engaging to your average person. Yeah. Is that something? First of all, why is that important to you? And second of all, is it just like how you are, or is it something you think about and work on in terms of being able to say, like, how can I make this engaging? How can I make this accessible?
Yeah, you know what, man? So you're the first person to ever phrase the question that way. And the answer it is just how I am.
Yeah.
Right? And the way people normally say things to me is they'll I'll give a public talk somewhere and they'll go, "Oh, Hakeem, thank you for dumbing it down for us." And I'll say to them, "No, you don't understand. I'm dumb. I didn't dumb anything down. I told you how I understand it." And, I think it was maybe Einstein who said that if you really understand something, you can explain it to anybody. Yeah. But, when I was a student at the university, personally, here's that human element again. I never met a class I liked. I hated going to class, right? Just like I hate anybody telling me to do anything.
What did you not like about it?
Number one, you're telling me show up here at this time and be in this room and sit here for an hour.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to do anything but that because you told me to do it. Right? But the other thing that happened is quite often, my thoughts did not flow like the professor's thoughts. So when they explained things to me, it confused me. So I had to do the work outside of the classroom. So quite often I would work with one other student at night on whatever it was. So in my undergraduate years, it was Francesca Wilkins. In my graduate school days, it was Rakesh Nigam and David Santiago. But I always had a partner that I put in long hours with every night, because it was very important to me to make this work for me because of social economic stuff, right? I was from the rural America where, my first jobs were all $3.35 an hour, $4 an hour minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
And I get this opportunity for a science world where I could make, it's kind of like that movie where the guy's like, $1 million.
$1 million.
$100,000 someday, you know?
Yeah.
Because y'all making $3,000 a year, $5,000 a year in the 80s, and now science shows up and it's like, you can make $100,000. So I'm like, I'm in. I got to make this work.
Yeah. I wonder though, like, at what point did you realize that you were smart and could do this stuff? Which is to say, as you point out, you didn't necessarily like school. Your brain wasn't working the way the teachers were. I think that you play out that scenario in a lot of other cases, and somebody may convince themselves that they are not smart, that there is something wrong with them. How and when did you go, no, I what I have is good?
Yeah, so I never thought of myself as smart as much as believed that through hard work I could accomplish whatever I set my mind to. But I did definitely have an identity crisis. I did have some form of what they call that imposter syndrome.
Sure.
Especially once I left rural Mississippi at the age of 24 and walked into Stanford University, for graduate school.
Yeah.
Like, I met people that were educated at levels I had never encountered in my life. And the first time I picked up, a professor told us to read a scientific paper. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This ain't even, not only is this not English, it doesn't even sound like human.
Yeah.
And so, man, I didn't, I would say that it was, I was in my early 30s, when I published my first astrophysics paper. So I did papers that were in developing technology, and that seemed doable, but actually studying nature and providing new insights into how nature works, in my case, it was the sun, I didn't think I was capable of that, but then I did it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, damn, I can do this. It's kind of like in media, I did voice acting for a while, and my first client was MTV, and I did a lot of commercials for them. Just like between 1999 and 2002. And what happened is one day they're like, Hakeem, we never played the stuff for you that you've recorded. And they play it for me. And I'm like, wow, I can actually do this.
You're like, that guy sounds great.
He sounds like a real commercial, right?
Real quick, because we got to let you go. Where can I go to get the podcast? Where can I see all the good stuff?
Yeah, so number one, I am the CEO of America's first and oldest national astronomy organization, the Astro Society, at astrosociety.org. You can find Particles of Thought on all your audio podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And you can find the book, Why Do We Exist? The 9 Realms of the Universe That Make You Possible, wherever you buy books. Bookstores, Amazon, and other websites.
Excellent. We've been speaking with Hakeem Oluseyi. He's an astrophysicist, author, and host of the Nova podcast, Particles of Thought. New season rolling out now. Hakeem, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
And now I am joined by Jared Bowen. How great is Hakeem?
Fantastic.
So good. I'm so excited.
It's a great way to bounce out of your show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to bounce into your show and what's coming up.
We have more than 20 choir members.
I know. I saw them.
Studio.
I saw them all milling about. I was like, "What's going on?" They were like, "Very special culture show coming up."
It is a very special edition of the Culture Show. This chamber choir, Ensemble Altera, is here because they're giving us a preview of their world premiere Peace Declarations, which looks back at the words of our founding fathers and omissions of our founding fathers, and then language of modern literary sensations, all for this world premiere piece that'll happen in New York, Boston, Providence this weekend. They give us a preview.
Very cool.
The Children's Art Carnival is this great project in New York for kids. It's been going on for decades, and it's produced some of the greatest luminaries in the art world, so we'll talk about that. There's a new exhibition reflecting the great artists who came out of this program. This is what happens when you give kids great access to arts. And then we'll speak to the owner of Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar, which is official headquarters of all the French fans in the World Cup. So lots to talk about there.
Delightful. That's another great show. The Culture Show with Jared Bowen coming your way in just under 2 minutes, so don't go anywhere. As for us, that about does it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Livia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Mukta Damaporakar is our intern. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna are two critical particles that always help clarify our thoughts. Our engineer, John McClaw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Massawa and Patrick Lally. We will be right back here in 23 short hours on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, we got the podcast version of the show. You can check that out wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. I hope you will stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And The Huntington, the Tony Award and Pulitzer Prize-winning satirical comedy Eureka Day, is playing at the Huntington through June 28th. Written by Jonathan Spector. Tickets at huntingtontheater.org. American Experience explores the 30-year career of George H.W. Bush, which came to an end after one tumultuous presidential term. Watch the final part of George H.W. Bush tomorrow at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, we have a preview performance of the world premiere choral work, Declarations, right here in GBH's Fraser Performance Studio. Ensemble Altera, the Providence-based chamber choir led by Christopher Lowry, will perform from its new work derived from words and omissions from the country's founding figures and more modern literary leaders. Then every artist has an origin story. For generations of artists in New York, theirs began inside a Harlem brownstone. The Children's Art Carnival is a place where working artists taught technique, cultivated confidence, and savored the soul. Now the program that has seen many an art star launch from its doors is receiving its own museum treatment at Columbia's Wallach Art Gallery. And Parlez-Vous World Cup? Boston does, especially at Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar, where fans of France have found their blue, white, and red home base. Owner Cliff Dever joins us on World Cup fever, French pride, and how his bar became Boston's official home for French fans. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. We're coming to you from GBH's Fraser Performance Studio. Ensemble Altera has quickly become one of the country's leading chamber choirs, known for the kind of programming that enlivens choral music as something electric, urgent, and very much of this moment. Now the group is on the eve of unveiling Declarations, a commissioned world premiere marking America at 250 by examining not only the ideals of the Declaration of Independence, but also what was intentionally omitted from Thomas Jefferson's document. Ahead of performances in New York, Boston, and Providence all this weekend, Ensemble Altera is here to perform. And I'm joined by its founder and director, countertenor Christopher Lowry, and the executive librettist of Declarations, Will Ashford. Welcome to you. Welcome to the choir, who is standing by to perform in just a few moments. Well, Christopher, let me just start by asking you about your intention in forming this ensemble, which is born of both you growing up here, but also your experience in Europe.
Yes, well, so I'm a Providence boy, and I caught the choral music bug very young and became sort of fascinated and then obsessed with the British choral tradition. So after I finished my studies here, I went to Cambridge University and did a bit of professional gigging around London with choirs, and always felt that I wanted to bring some of that, transplant some of that culture here in the US. And so it was
Because you recognize that there was something almost, is missing the right word, in what you wanted to do in the choral tradition.
Yeah, I mean, we have our own choral tradition here, which is very important and storied, but there was a different flavor that I had gravitated to even from a young age in the British tradition. And so I had moved there and was quite happy doing that for a while, and that got sidetracked into singing on concert stages and in opera houses. Always had an ambition to start a choir here that was informed by that tradition, but never really had the space or the time. And then COVID hit, and we were all unemployed with nothing to do. And some people who...
We can laugh about it now.
Yeah. And I thought, maybe now's the time to try something, to experiment. And I had a wild idea about raising some money through a crowdfunder and recording some videos in a parking garage, which felt like a safe space to perform in person in Providence. And a bunch of people who maybe hadn't heard of me or thought that I wasn't paying them enough money were in a good mood during COVID to be offered any work. And so we just tried it out, and the rest is kind of history. It all came together, and I became convinced that it would work. And
well, now you're in the business of commissioning works, which is very, very exciting. Enter Declarations, this world premiere piece that people will hear in New York, Boston, and Providence this weekend. Will, tell me about coming in, forming this piece with this text stemming from, not entirely derived from, the Declaration of Independence and Thomas Jefferson's thoughts.
Well, Piers asked me to write the libretto, and I said, I can't write it. I'm not an American, but I can help you curate the texts, and I could write one of the movements, but I think it was fundamentally important that there was a multiplicity of voices. I mean, as you mentioned, so much was redacted from the original, so I thought, well, here's an opportunity to bring those voices back, and that's why we have some great writers involved with the project. Tracy K. Smith, of course, and D.G. Ockpick, just brilliant writers, and also America's some of America's greatest writers like Langston Hughes, etc. But I think, if you'll indulge me a little bit about the structure, maybe the idea was to create something that had simultaneity. So you had us in 2026, on the one hand, but also reading it in 1776. So you had these two things going on at the same time. And what does that document mean today? And I think music does that quite beautifully, where you can spin two things at the same time. And that's kind of what each movement does. So you have Jefferson in each movement, but also a voice from the 19th century, 20th century, 21st century as well.
He's answered. His thoughts, his omissions are answered with these voices.
And questioned and re-examined. I didn't think we wanted it to be simply a flag waving, thing. Here was a great chance to explore what the document means now, with the ability to kind of look back and reconsider it. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Well, Chris, we're going to invite you over to the choir, which is standing by. If you could just quickly tell me what we're about to hear.
Yeah, so this is the fourth movement of the piece America, which is named after the Langston Hughes poem, Let America Be America Again. This is the one movement in the piece, actually, that doesn't have voices conversing together. It's just Langston Hughes' text, but he is sort of in dialogue with himself. He's, obviously very conflicted about loving the idea of America and feeling like it hasn't ever lived up to its promise, but he believes it will.
Well, I'll invite you to join. Thank you so much. And while you're making your way over, again, we're speaking with Ensemble Altera, chamber choir. I'm joined by its founder and director, Christopher Lowry, and executive librettist, Will Ashford. He is the executive librettist of the new piece, Declarations. We're going to hear a piece of that right now. Just incredible. We've been listening to Ensemble Altera, a Providence-based chamber choir. That was an excerpt from their new commission, a world premiere of declarations. That was from the first movement, America. Much of it derived from Langston Hughes' poem, Let America Be America Again. Christopher, as we're hearing this right now, these words, that music, how does music become such an extraordinary vessel for these questions we were just talking about?
Well, I think that they bring an emotional intensity to them. I think the text, you feel an outpouring. You can hear the sopranos there wailing at the top of their voice in a sort of elegy for something, but it's mingled, I think, with a sense of possibility and promise as well, with the cornet playing, you know, the sound of the American plains, the openness of American society. And the hope that it could be what it's supposed to, what it was meant to, what it was promised to be.
Who are you and what are you making this piece for?
You know, I didn't know when we set out, but the answers may be coming into view this week as we're working on it. And it's maybe a way for someone like me who has a complicated relationship with my country. I think a lot of us do today. In our time, but I think it does a beautiful job of offering a window into how one can be a patriot in 2026, teaching us something anew about our history and giving us something to love beyond saluting a flag or sort of a blind faith in something, but really the argument, the ability to reform, the ability to participate. And the piece draws that out beautifully with a conversation between a multiplicity of voices. And it's really affected me over the course of this week, just thinking one can feel an unfettered pride in our tradition, which is a very unusual feeling for a person who's taught that to be wary of patriotism.
Will, I was struck by our earlier conversation when you were at pains to say there had to be many voices and you're not American, but I, and I'm sure many others, are curious to know what you think about this country in this moment. For more than 2 centuries, this country has been, in many ways, a model republic the world over, obviously with many complications then and now. So as you dive further into this, what do you see?
Yes, I suppose it's quite interesting why the composer Piers, of course, being English as well. I think often being on the outside, you can view something more objectively. If you think about some of the great British cinema, Merchant Ivory films made by an American and an Indian, both former British colonies, of course, but they could view Englishness in that way. And I think maybe Piers and I, coming at it from the outside, we don't come at it with baggage necessarily. Maybe we come at it afresh, and I think that's what we really try to get across in the choices of text and how we set them. But yes, it's a curious time, I guess. I don't want to say too much on that, maybe.
Well, the music does a lot of expression for you on that front. Christopher, you're performing, as I mentioned, in New York, Boston, Providence. All, it seems, very deliberately chosen locations for this piece in particular.
Yeah, we wanted to find venues that had historic resonances, if you like, whether that be Old South Church with its history of welcoming people like Phyllis Wheatley, or the First Baptist Church with Roger Williams, for example, or the Jesuit community, which has its own tradition of independent thought in New York City at St. Ignatius Loyola. And we wanted, hopefully, that the building itself might transport us into a space of imagining history.
I've mentioned that you're a Providence-based choir, but who are the choir members? Not necessarily all Providence-based.
No, we're from everywhere from Kansas City to London, really. And we have some British brethren with us in the group most times, and I think there's maybe 8 of us from the UK, and the rest of us are Americans. And actually, it's funny, we decided that we would do a bit of reading of the Declaration of Independence in the concert dramatically. And someone said to me, "Oh, but does it make sense that you'd be hearing British accents?" And we thought, well, actually, yes, because at that time they all would have been British accents. So, and I think it's rather sweet. And our British crew have become, I think, if they'll permit me to say, honorary Americans this week during this celebration. So.
Well, this is a good time around World Cup time, too,
Yes.
for everybody to be enjoying Boston. This is the answer to that. You're going to perform one more selection. Tell me what this one is.
This is actually the epilogue to the piece, and maybe, Will, you want to say something about it, but I think the thought behind it, it's named Sally, after Sally Hemings, who was, the historical record suggests pretty strongly now, Jefferson's mistress. She gave him, I think, 6 children. She was inherited in his wife's dowry. Of course, we don't have any surviving likeness of her, no surviving writings, and we thought, I think you thought, Will, what would be a way to give her her own voice as a way to close out the piece?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to that, which was, Piers and I, we tried to find a text to fit, and we tried all sorts of things. We thought maybe we could ask somebody to write in the voice, and ultimately what we realized was her voice was taken away, like the redactions made, like the document itself, the ink has burnt through the parchment and these ghosts of words. And I thought actually it'd be more powerful to see where words fail and what music can do, as Chris was saying earlier. It takes you somewhere else in your gut. I think words limit us somewhat. So I think the epilogue idea was to kind of get that, how could you possibly express the injustice of what happened? And I think music maybe can get us closer, I don't know.
Well, made all the more profound by Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Annette Gordon-Reed showing us how well-educated Sally Hemings was, yeah. So to not have her words. Well, I invite you back to the choir right now for this second piece. Again, we're treated to this premiere of a world premiere from Ensemble Altera, the chamber choir, who is premiering Declarations this weekend, starting in New York, then here in Boston and in Providence. Once again, Ensemble Altera with their epilogue, Sally. Ensemble Altera, it has been such a joy and so moving to have you here with us today. Thank you so much. Ensemble Altera is a Providence-based chamber choir whose work ranges from early music to new commissions. I've been speaking with founder and director Christopher Lowry and executive librettist of their newest piece, Will Ashford. Today we heard the ensemble performing excerpts from that piece titled Declarations. You can hear the full world premiere work here in New England this weekend, Saturday at Old South Church in Boston, which also features a pre-concert discussion, and Sunday at First Baptist Church in Providence. Tickets are available through Ensemble Altera's website. Again, thank you so much for being here. This was quite a production in our studio, so I also want to thank our engineers, Eddie Hickey, Colin Cockrell, Fred Young, Antonio Oliart-Ross, John Bonner, Brad Lewis, Cy Patel, and Lance Douglas. Coming up, a tree grows in Brooklyn, an artist grows in Harlem. A new exhibition looks at the Children's Art Carnival and how it has nurtured some of our most influential artists. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
The World Cup's energy is everywhere. The game is global, but this experience is local. GBH News is following how the world's biggest tournament plays out right in front of us.
I'm not gonna have space enough for everybody. That's I tell you.
We've never had a World Cup in our lifetime, so it's good to be here in America. They just do it big, do it big.
Get all the latest at gbhnews.org/World Cup.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Museum of Fine Arts, presenting Framing Nature, Gardens, and Imagination. This new exhibition of beloved and never-before-seen treasures centers gardens across time, place, and cultures. More at mfa.org. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, committed to simplifying college planning for families over 45 years with trusted guidance, interactive tools, step-by-step videos, and more. MEFA.org. And Gentle Giant Moving and Storage Company, offering local, long-distance, office, and piano moving with 23 locations throughout New England and across the country. More information at gentlegiant.com.
If you made a gift to GBH this year, thank you. Your support keeps this great reporting coming all summer long. So, if you can, please consider making an additional gift by the end of the month, online at gbhnews.org.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Before Jean-Michel Basquiat became Jean-Michel Basquiat, he was a teenager finding his way through New York's art world, including time as an intern at the Children's Art Carnival in Harlem. The Carnival, an art program for students, was founded by the Museum of Modern Art in 1969 and led by artist and educator Betty Blayton Taylor. It became a place where working artists taught young and aspiring ones not only technique, but confidence, identity, and a visual language all their own. Many of the great American artists of the 20th century passed through the building. Now Columbia University's Wallach Art Gallery is tracing the program's history and impact in the exhibition Children's Art Carnival in Harlem, The Making of Contemporary Artists, on view beginning tomorrow through September 13th. The exhibition brings together artwork and archival material connected to more than 30 artists. Joining me now are the exhibition's curator, Souleo, and participating artist Michael A. Cummings, who, by the way, will have 2 works of his quilts and a September show at Mobilia Gallery in Cambridge in, as I mentioned, September. It's great to have you both here.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you. Souleo, let me start with you. You are a curator looking at this program and recognized its impact on 20th century American art. How big did you see the impact is, the scope of it?
You know, the impact is major. When you think about the grassroots initiatives and community efforts that are part of the art world ecosystem and that help sustain and nurture the talents of artists, this is right up there to me with the Studio Museum because it creates a space for artists to discover themselves. And so, as you mentioned, Basquiat is one of the most famous of its alum, right? And, you know, Betty mentioned how there he found a space where he would use their print shop and take those prints downtown to Andy Warhol and those that were on the scene. So he was there for a short time, but it was one of many things that helped nurture his talent and give him the tools to become who he was. And that's true of so many of the artists in the show.
Well, Michael, as I mentioned, you are one of the featured artists in this show because of your time spent there. How would you describe what happened there and what the philosophy of teaching and the philosophy of nurturing was that produced so many great artists?
Well, I start off with the word magic. There was just a lot of magic going on. Betty Blayton Taylor's energy was all over the building, and she didn't stay in her seat in the office upstairs. She walked around. This is a brownstone, 4 floors, and we had a backyard with activities going on, and she would constantly pop into each room. Children were excited to be brought there because they were bused there by the school system, and so you had all these children coming there to exclusively to do art, to express themselves and to be guided along using how to use materials and be taught by real artists. And so the combination was just electric. And so a lot of things got produced. I mean, you would look at their artwork, you could say, oh, this is a little Picasso right here being developed. You know, they're doing it naturally. And speaking of interns, I remember Basquiat moving around. He was kind of shy, along with all the high school interns at the time, but eyes wide open, looking at what was going on and really consuming, you know, what was being said and how different artists were, their particular styles. He was kind of like eating that up, you know, so to speak.
Well, Souleo, let me go back to you on that front. I was astounded to learn. I mean, it's great if you have a program like this in New York because you have immediate access to so many extraordinary people. But the exposure that these kids have had and the generational intelligence and skill sets and knowledge that's passed on. First of all, who are some of the greats that passed through there? And then how did it become so layered by constantly bringing in people to interact with the students?
So Betty had a wide, extensive network. She's also co-founder of the Student Museum in Harlem. So she was on the board. She knew many people, and she was immersed in the artistic community. So she knew tons of artists. So in terms of some of the amazing folks that came through there, Shabalala South, a major contemporary art figure, she took classes there as a student, as did some of her older siblings. And so again, it was a space not just for individual students, but for families to gather and create those bonds with the community. And she says that experience helped her, it gave her confidence as a young woman. And it also helped her appreciate Black figuration, seeing reflections of who we are in art. And so that was a major thing. You also had Stevie Wonder, who visited the Carnival, which was quite cool. He came in the 70s on a visit. He visited just 3 places: Harlem School of the Arts, Student Museum, and the Children's Art Carnival. Wilmia Bearden was an advisory consultant and a very close friend of Betty's, and he would come through there time to time and talk to the children and youth. And there's so many amazing artists: Dinga McCannon, Singer Ngudi, who were part of this amazing experience.
Michael, if you think of the eras through which this program has existed and survived and thrived, it's the civil rights movement, the Black arts movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. How did you see its place while you were there, just in the scope of society, and then what it's meant for artists, as we talk about day in and day out on this show, how artists are responding to what's happening in the world?
Well, I saw it as a citadel in terms of it was a beacon in Harlem for not only students and artists that were, students that were interested in art, but for artists themselves. It was a place to go to communicate, to share resources and information. And Betty, she was sort of like an unemployment office for the artists. Any artist that was out of work or something, she would take them in and nurture them and help them along on their journey. And so, but it was very important for identity purposes, like Souleo was speaking about in terms of Black identity, because it wasn't at that point, it was kind of a low point in major inner cities and across the country. And civil rights was just kind of getting its strength together. And so it was a great time for children to see other adult faces of color working and identifying themselves as artists. And that could be a career and a future to just kind of express yourself through art and different sort of media. So it was a great time for the artists and the students. And Betty was sort of like a very avant-garde in terms of what she did. She was a very advocate for what she did. And she had a lot of great energy.
We're talking about the Children's Art Carnival in Harlem and the exhibition of the same name, about to be on view starting tomorrow through September 13th at Columbia University's Wallach Art Gallery. Souleo, before I go back to you, Michael, we haven't even talked about your art yet, but you are a quilt maker, and I think your story is probably perfectly aligned with this, because you made quilts at a time when most people didn't think that this is something that a man would necessarily do, maybe not even support a young man doing it, but I'm sure you felt the confidence there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started off with collage. I discovered Romare Bearden when I first arrived in New York in the early 70s, and I started working with paper. But at one point, there was a male from Canada named Norman La Liberté that was showing his artwork at the American Folk Art Museum.
He had connections here in Massachusetts, too. Absolutely.
Okay. And he created these really comical Renaissance type narratives of castles and dragons and all sorts of, and I was fascinated by that. And I looked at the show several times, and I picked up needle and thread. And at one point, I had to make a banner for the Department of Cultural Affairs as a fun project. And that was the first time I picked up scissors, and I didn't know how to use the thread. And so anyway, eventually I did it by hand and created a banner. And after that, a light went off in my mind. I said, well, hey, this is better, cheaper than working with paints and paper. And so I just taught myself to sew, and then eventually a sewing machine. And then I got into creating narratives. I didn't want to do traditional quilts. And I did run up against a lot of questions. Well, why are you doing this? This is not what men do and stuff. But then I did a lot of international research, and men across the country, the world, are weavers and sewers and stuff in Africa to Europe. So I said, well, hey, what are you talking about? You know, but it is a sort of like a narrow sort of definition that we have in this country of what genders are supposed to do.
Well, Souleo, continuing on that thread of persistence and subsistence, how has this program been able to move forward with such strength for so long?
I think because of the impact it's had, there are so many people who love Betty, so many people who love the artists who are part of this, so many people who through the years have volunteered their time. You know, the Carnival has had its ups and downs. After its peaks in the 70s, 80s, you know, there was a lot of financial strain, and then it shuttered for a few years as it was trying to rebuild itself, and now it's back in being operational. And you have board co-chairs, Michael Unthink and Donna M. Jones, and so many artists who volunteer and contribute their time. And so I think they see the value in this. And they see the value, especially now in a socio-political climate where, you know, they're stripping funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, and DEI is, you know, they're trying to strip that. It affects marginalized communities the most, and it affects art education. That's the first thing that gets cut. And so I think that people recognize the importance of these community spaces and the importance of us supporting each other, even when our government cannot or is not willing to do so.
It's also cross-disciplinary support. As you mentioned, Stevie Wonder visited. George C. Wolfe, the great Tony-winning director and playwright, visited. Of course, the visual artists that we've also talked about. What was the philosophy behind bringing all of the arts together and not have it be just one discipline?
Yeah, so in Betty's book, Making Thoughts Become, you know, she talks about having creative freedom and using that as a way for people to develop themselves personally and spiritually. And one of the things in my research that I came across was that she found, of course, they started with like painting and sort of the fine art subjects, but because of her cultural background and recognizing the Harlem community, we're into craft, we're into handmade. We do not restrict ourselves to just the fine arts as the mainstream art world, you know, defines it. And so she was responding to her own cultural upbringing and responding to the community's interests and needs. And then as they started out with 4 to 7-year-olds, and then they realized that the youth could not come without the older siblings, some of them. So then they expanded to try and reach older youth. And that's when they got into video and puppetry, just responding to the needs of the community.
Well, Michael, how did you find your way to it? And what did it open for you and others to know that this place existed and this access existed?
Well, like I said, it was like a citadel or a beacon in the darkness, so to speak, because so much energy and nurturing for young artists was there. And so once you got in, you didn't want to leave. And for me, it taught me how to work with a large scale in terms of size of my artwork, because I was in charge of creating murals with high school students on park buildings at one point. And so I would get on the ladder and draw all these big outlines of shapes and forms, and then they would fill in with paint, and I would like guide them and things like that. So that was one thing I walked away with, just the confidence of walking in with large scale work. But other than that, it was just, I got influenced by working with fabric there as well, because we did a lot of collage fabric pieces with children of all ages. And it kind of grew from a little table size something to maybe a wall hanging, something like that. So that introduced me to working with scissors and fabric. So I walked away with a lot of skills that I didn't come in with. And so it was very beneficial for me. And a lot of artists walked away with more information about what they could do to enhance their career.
And I would finally, Souleo, I'm sure that they also walked away with a responsibility to then pass it on and understand that they are part of a continuum. You must have found that when you were reaching out to them and pulling them together for this exhibition.
Oh yeah, and Michael, the piece that was just on the screen, Sana Goes to Japan. That's Sana Musasama, who's in the show and who also taught at the Carnival, and they developed a friendship. Michael continues to have a relationship with Armando Elaine, who was an intern alongside Basquiat and at the Carnival. So it created these familial, communal bonds, and that continues today as the Carnival continues to serve the community, and it's just really inspiring.
Well, thank you both for being here. Congratulations in the exhibition and bringing widespread knowledge and attention to this fabulous program that is best when replicated across the country, too, so there can be so much access everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Souleo is curator of Children's Art Carnival in Harlem, the making of contemporary artists. Artist Michael A. Cummings' work is included in the exhibition. It's on view at Columbia University's Wallach Art Gallery in New York, beginning tomorrow through September 13th. As I also mentioned, you'll be able to see Michael's work in September at the Mobilia Gallery in Cambridge. By the way, the Columbia Gallery is free and open to the public, and you can find more information at wallach.columbia.edu. Coming up, the World Cup runneth over. We check in with one sports bar about what it means to serve football's most fervent fans. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Trade. Huge responses from across Europe, from the Danish Prime Minister.
Climate.
Picture this all filled with ice.
Security.
Not only do we need to end the war, we also need to prevent the next war.
These are global issues, and to understand them, you need a global perspective. I'm Carolyn Beeler.
And I'm Marco Werman. Join us for The World each and every weekday.
This afternoon at 3 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Newport Mansions, presenting 11 historic properties and landscapes, including 7 National Historic Landmarks, tracing America's architectural and social development from the colonial era through the Gilded Age. NewportMansions.org.
Support for GBH comes from you and from Cambridge School of Culinary Arts.
Through our sponsorship, we're able to participate in such events as the GBH Food and Wine Festival.
Sean Leonard, Executive Director.
A great event that puts Cambridge Culinary in front of the listeners and is really great affirmation that we're hitting the right notes and reaching our community through GBH.
To learn more, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
The trusted local news you rely on, in your pocket. The GBH News app brings you curated coverage so you can focus on the issues that matter most. Download it today on the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Boston has World Cup fever, and for fans of France, the city has become a home base. Its team has been staying in Boston and training at Bentley College, and tomorrow they take the field in Foxborough against Norway. But before kickoff, there's the other contest, where to watch. For fans ready to shout Allez le Bleu, one answer is Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar, just steps from the Fan Festival at City Hall Plaza. Warehouse has partnered with the French national team to serve as the official bar for supporters with 20 screens, World Cup broadcasts throughout the tournament, and a kitchen ready for extra time. Cliff Dever, owner of Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar, joins us from the center of FIFA Fervor. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Well, normally my guests come in studio, but I don't think you have time to even come. You don't even have time to sign on to the Zoom.
My poor wife, I haven't been home in about a week, so I'm hanging on by a thread. Yep.
Well, we keep hearing these stories. I have seen so many of them. What is it like to be in the middle of it? And did you anticipate that this was going to be like this?
It's absolutely incredible. So grateful for the city of Boston to host such an awesome event for fans from all around the world. It's been overwhelmingly busy, more than we could ever imagine, honestly.
So give me a sense of what it's like, what an ordinary day might be like in June versus what you're having now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been open 13 years. This will be our fourth World Cup experience, right? The first being 2014, summer of 2014. The games were in Rio. It aligned with our business. Overwhelmingly busy for the U.S. games, and that's about it. And then as we get into the later rounds, we got, there's a lot of fans from other countries that live in the States and live in Boston and work downtown, come in during the lunch break or whatnot. But having fans travel to watch games at Foxborough has just been literally the highlight of my hospitality career. It's like unlike any experience I've ever had. I keep saying I feel like we're in Epcot Center or the United Nations. Every day there's a new fan group coming in. We obviously got invaded from Scotland. The British came this week. We've got the Norwegians here. We've got the French coming. We're grateful to be the home of the French fan supporters. Last night we partied with the South African group. We had a DJ here. We had Morocco, Haiti, Mexico, Brazil. It's just crazy. Germany's coming on Monday. It's like we're just overwhelmed with people looking to support their country, and just happy to be able to provide a venue for them to do that in.
Well, we hear these stories about the taps running dry and just being eaten and drunk out of house and home and bar. Did you know this was going to happen? Were you stocked up?
So I have some Scottish friends who live in the city, and they told me about I think it might have been the Europa Cup or something in Germany where they drank Germany dry. And so I said, wow, if anyone's drinking Germany dry, these guys. So we tripled our order, and we still ran out of things. The top sellers for the Scots were Sam Boston Lager. I'm sure you've heard all the stories. It's all over the news. I think they drank the entire state out of Sam Lager. At one point, I think we had the only keg still tapped because I think I got 5 of them or something like that on Friday. But they drank us out of almost every draft beer that we carry. It was mostly draft beers. It was such a crazy experience. We like to serve our draft beer in glasses. We had to switch over to plastic. Our dishwashers couldn't keep up. It was I mean, the music. I mean, you've seen the videos, the songs, the camaraderie, the kilts. I was trading shirts. I have 4 kilts. I got invited to Scotland by multiple people. It's just been a completely overwhelming experience. So cool.
Well, as successive nationalities have come in, do you find they're distinct in how each of them are bringing their level of joy and excitement?
For sure. The English historically they're still mad about what happened the last time they invaded, but every nation has a different vibe for sure. The South African party we had last night, they're so proud. It was the first time I think they won the World Cup. I can't remember the statistics, so don't quote me. But when they won, it was so cool to watch. They were so happy singing their songs. We had a DJ playing all of their music. It was really cool. If you check out our Instagram pages, there's 20 or 30 stories that were tagged in from just groups, posting. And every other country is joining in on the celebration. We had Scotland fans partying with the Ivory Coast when they won their game. We've had Brazil fans even partying with Scotland fans, even though they were playing each other. It's just crazy.
And then how did this, by the way, if people are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Cliff Dever, owner of Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar right around the corner from City Hall, where so much celebrating is happening. How did it come to be, as I mentioned in the introduction, that you really are home base, the official home base for the French fans?
So one of the marketing director from the French Football Federation reached out to us via email. I'm guessing they may have just done a Google search. I think, we're in close proximity to their hotel down in downtown Crossing area, close proximity to Fan Fest. They were looking for a group, a bar to send their group of fans pregame. The night before, we're going to be hosting a little gathering, actually today, later this afternoon for French fans. And then those that are just come into the city that can't watch the game in person at the stadium, they're going to come here and, support their team here. So she emailed us when they were in town. They came and visited us. I'm grateful to have a staff member, My boy Liam, he's fluent in French. He's actually going to grad school to become a French teacher. He sat in on the meeting, and the rest is history. I really didn't even have to say much. They just spoke in French, and Liam gave me the thumbs up. And it was just, so I said, well, so what do I need to do? And she said, when they get here, they're going to bring you the flag, and and that's it.
And French fries, ha ha ha.
And yeah, right. And a beret. Yeah.
Quick last question for you. We just have about 30 seconds left, but I keep thinking, is this like a cruise or a vacation where you go and you meet somebody and you think, oh, we're going to be friends for life, and then you go home and everything goes back to normal and you never see them again? What happens after all this?
I don't want it to go back to normal. Don't get me wrong. I love the financial district crowd. These are my people. I've been down in the financial district for 20 years. But if we could have the World Cup every summer, I would sign me up. It's just so cool. I hope I get to stay in touch with some of the people I met. Just such a great experience. Really, really grateful, really humbled. It's just really cool.
I couldn't agree more. I live in the city. I run around the city, and it's you feel the energy. It's so exciting. Well, Cliff Dever, I don't want to take any more of your time. I know how busy you are. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
Go USA.
Cliff Dever is the owner of Warehouse Kitchen and Sports Bar on Broad Street in downtown Boston. Warehouse is serving as the official bar for fans of the French national team during the World Cup, with matches playing throughout the tournament. And of course, France faces Norway tomorrow at Boston Stadium in Foxborough. Tomorrow is our Week in Review show at the Boston Public Library. We'll take on the Green Monster as Muse, how the swampy reflecting pool is inspiring public art and pop song parodies. Plus, we'll remember music mogul Clive Davis. I'm Jared Bowen. Come down to the library and join us tomorrow. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.